Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nerdcast. It is Devin, broadcasting as always live from an undisclosed location in the center of Texas on a relatively chill Thursday evening, joined by Justin. How you doing?
Doing great. Can we turn the volume down a little bit in my headphones?
Sure.
Oh, sweet. Doing well.
Yeah.
It's been a good day.
It's been a while. Quite a bit has happened. I can't remember what we talked about last time you were here. There was a lot of stuff, I feel like.
Yeah, we were hitting all the hits.
Yeah, we were all over the place, but
I think there was probably some Elon Musk stuff in there at the time.
oh, there always is. I've got some stuff here too, just some updates on that. Hopefully we get to that. We're starting this a little bit later than usual.
Yep.
But are you gonna have to leave early?
Probably not. I mean, I'm gonna leave whatever.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So a lot of stuff has happened, and we kind of experienced polar opposite weeks last week. There.
I had a pretty shitty week last week.
Yeah. So just to keep everybody up to date on what's happened, and so I asked you on the stream today because one of the chatters requested you come back on. They wanted to hear your input on the Austin Energy happenings as a result of the freeze last week. So what had happened was last week in the Austin or Central Texas area, Texas in general, hit by a massive cold front and freezing temperatures.
It just wasn't that cold though.
It wasn't that cold.
It was a very strange occurrence.
Well,
it was like the weather equivalent of like flipping a quarter and it landing on its end, and I have no power for a week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like a ton of people in Austin were without power for a long time.
There are people that still don't have.
There are people that still don't have it right now. Like it was actually more impactful than the 2021 winter storm.
Certainly more long lasting. I would say probably less impactful because it wasn't all over Texas, where. I mean, like,
in the Austin area in general.
Yeah,
Austin,
and maybe in Austin for sure, because there's people that still. But I will say that the last one had a lot of pipes bursting. It wasn't cold enough to burst pipes. Like, I knew multiple people that had their house completely flooded and had to like tear all the drywall out.
Yeah,
and that's a whole other level of craziness.
That is true, but that's also part of the weirdness of it is that like what happened last week wasn't like. Once in a century cold.
No.
It was just regular ass cold.
It was just regular ass cold. There's been multiple times, I want to say in the same year, that it's gotten that cold before, that it just didn't rain that very specific way. You know what I mean?
Like, it rained for several days, a couple of days, up until the time the cold came. So everything was like covered in water already, just soaked. And then that froze. And then it had like a combination of like rain and like some snow and sleet that like all at the same time were compounding on the ice that was already frozen.
Well, that's
and
the
just
thing.
Added all that additional
very
weight.
Little snow. If it had actually snowed, it wouldn't have been as bad. But because the temperature hovered around 30 degrees, it was actually warm enough for it to be water on the ground and water in the sky. And when it would hit the trees, it was also water, you know what I mean? But when it hit the trees that were frozen already, a little bit accumulated. Once it hit the trees and touched the ice that was already there and ran down and then the wind came, it froze it more and more and more. And so you end up with the trees are the only thing that's frozen. But that's a big problem if they just continually get frozen like over and over and over again. They were just bending down everywhere. It was wild.
So the reason why that caused such a huge problem in Austin is because we have a metric fuck ton of trees that are all very perfectly situated over power lines.
Well, we also have our power lines above ground, which is
a lot of our power lines are above
rare.
Ground. Yeah.
Like Dallas. I mean, there's areas of Dallas that have power lines above ground, but most, by and large, power lines are underground. And lots of other places in the country, power lines are underground. But Austin,
for whatever reason, I don't know.
Yeah, certainly central Austin. Power lines are above ground everywhere. It was a big problem.
I've never noticed them around her house. Are they above ground?
They're everywhere above ground, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. There's like a neighborhood downtown where like on the exterior of the neighborhood, they're above ground, but then when you get into the neighborhood, they're all buried.
Yeah.
So it's
every
a little
house
strange,
in my
yeah.
neighborhood. So they run behind our houses, and then the power comes, and it comes to a thing on the roof, and it goes in, and it comes down. So everyone has power lines going to their house,
Yeah.
essentially. And dude, I don't know what happened, but the night it went out, I was awoken by this enormous sound. It was like, it sounds like when low end feeds back on speakers that are like, and it's like low end feedback, but it was like a UFO or something. It was you could hear it for like a mile in every direction. Like you could hear it echoing through the thing.
Yeah.
And it woke us up at like 5 a.m, and we were like, the hell is that? And the power went out. Well, a couple days later, the power's still out, and I was recording in the studio at like 1 a.m, and then the power came back on while I was in the middle of the take, and I was like, oh yes, dude. It's only been a couple days at this point. I was running off a generator, and then the sound happened again. So it came on, and it was like, and I was like, all right, the power's on. But then I heard it again. It was like, whoa, whoa, and I was like, holy shit, that's that sound. The power immediately went off.
What was it?
I don't know what was making that sound.
Huh.
I don't know if it was like a series of transformers oscillating. I have no idea what that sound was, but it was disturbing sounding because it was so
sounds
loud.
alien.
It was very alien sounding, and it was so loud. That's the thing. It's like, and because I could hear it clearly inside the studio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like, it was making so much bass, and I was like, dude, that has to be deafening outside. You know what I mean? And I don't know where it was coming from, but
Yeah, I can't imagine where in your area there would be like a source for something like that.
well, there is like an area, like, so behind Lowe's, there's a power station there. There's like a bunch of huge things that come in there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you're right.
I don't know
from
if
that Honda.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that. Could have been.
Could have been, I guess.
You know what I mean? But it was like, I don't.
How long were you without power?
So lost it on Wednesday morning at 5 a.m. So pretty much like Tuesday night, went to bed and had power, and woke up and didn't have power. And so from Wednesday morning all the way until fairly late Saturday night.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's brutal. So you had to throw out a bunch of food then.
All the food. And then like I bought a generator so that I could work out of the studio because
you bought a generator during the blackout?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you found one.
Well, they're expensive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I wasn't gonna get one. I was like, damn, do I really want to do this? I mean, the power could come back on at any moment, And then people started to come in there and look at generators more. I was sitting there just looking at it, and people started to walk down the aisle. I was like, all right, I'll take this one, pack it up, Then my work was like, dude, you can't be like, I mean, I had no recourse. Like, I couldn't go to another studio that had power because all my plugins and all the various stuff that I needed was on my computer. I couldn't like install it all on some other computer. And so, yeah, my business covered the generator, but like after I'd already bought it, they're like, I'd already was like, I'm on a generator. I can work. And they're like, well, we'll cover that. But like, yeah, I could run my audio and a few lights and my computer and stuff, but no heat. So like,
So you were recording all your stuff freezing.
Oh, dude, I was wearing a huge coat and a hat, and I was like doing sessions like live over the wire, with people that were like in a nice cozy suite in like in St. Louis.
You had them on Zoom or something?
Yeah. So what I can do for my studio is I can like zoom out and I can like in the suite they sit like a really nice desk for clients, and then they have a Surface tablet, and my face is on there on Zoom, and then there's a huge monitor, and that's actually playing the video that's coming from me live, and then there's two huge studio monitor speakers playing my mix live, and so I'm streaming both those things at the same time down the pipe, in pretty close to real time, and it works pretty well, but it's funny because I'm in the dark, you know what I mean, and I've got like a toboggan on and a huge ski jacket, my snowboarding coat, and they're like, dude, I feel like you're broadcasting from some base in Antarctica. I was like, it's kind of what it feels
funny.
like.
Yeah, you're like on the set of The Thing.
Yeah,
just
pretty
there
much.
with the guitar.
Yeah. And the funny thing was it was like, I ran my car the entire time because my car, it's a Volkswagen. It has a great heater and like heated seats. I ran it like the entire day. It would just sit in my driveway idling. So like every time I got cold, if I wasn't like live on a session, I would go out there and just sit in it and like plug my phone in and just warm up in the car, you know, because it got crazy cold in the house. The first night, Juniper, my wife and my daughter went to stay with my dad because he still had power. But I had to work late because I'd lost that full day of work. So when I got the generator at the end of the day, I was like, I'm just going to work. You know what I mean? So I went to bed in the house, and it was like 49 degrees, dude. And I had like 2 or 3 large blankets on me, and I was just like, oh, you know? Dude, and that was on Wednesday night. By fucking Saturday, I was over it, man.
It was slowly like, it was like a Shining situation where you were slowly losing your mind while freezing.
Oh, I had a moment, dude, in the studio where I was just breaking stuff. I was just like, because this is the thing.
Why were you breaking stuff?
Because I worked all week, you know, with the fucking generator, freezing my ass off to make sure that, you know, my clients had a good experience and everything was going great. And I was mixing on that Friday, and I had mixed these spots and I had turned them in, and they were like, yeah, well, we need stems, which is basically like the splits of the VO and the sound effects and the music. And they're like, can we get that for these spots? And I'm like, you sure can. So I'm doing that. I'm bouncing the stems down, and then I'm right up at 5 o'clock. I got someplace to be. I was meeting people from dinner at like 5:30. I had reservations, and like I was looking forward to that. I was like, oh, dude, I got this made in the shade. I'm gonna bounce these couple stems, upload them, and then I'll have like 10 minutes before I've got to go meet, you know, for dinner. At 5 o'clock, exactly on the nose, actually 4:59, Google shuts down Google Fiber.
Google shuts down Google Fiber?
Yeah, they shut it down.
What do you mean they shut it down?
They turned it off. Like internet stops.
For good?
No, they just shut it down, probably
for
because
maintenance or something?
Probably for maintenance because of the trees, and also people probably needing to shut things down and turn the powers back, turn the power on, and certain because they shut it down for everyone in our area. And dude, my Pro Tools, like the license is in the cloud. The minute it couldn't Pro Tools was like, we're done, it's over, and I hadn't uploaded a couple of stems, I hadn't bounced a couple, I had just literally I had like 5 more minutes worth of work after a full week, and I couldn't load Pro Tools, I couldn't log in. I tried to use my phone as a hotspot, and for whatever reason, my computer, it would see the phone and connect to it, but it wouldn't get any internet, and I was just like, after a week of like fucking running a generator and gassing it up and doing all this crap, you know what I mean? Freezing my ass off, my feet being like icicles. I just was like, I took my console, I have a recording console, and it's really heavy, but I lifted up the front of it and I just dropped it, and my monitor speakers went off into the thing. I was just like, God damn it, I was so pissed, you know?
Oh, I don't mean to laugh at your misfortune.
Oh, it's okay. I was kind of being a baby, but it was just kind of at the end of that week. That was just a shitty way to wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like if there's only so much you could take, you know. It's like,
dude.
It's like that Simpsons where Homer's like, "You're pushing me, baby."
it was totally that. It was like in Top Gun Maverick, where at the end he's like done all the stuff, and it just keeps getting shittier and shittier, and eventually he's just like, I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry. He's like, that's I was just like, God damn it, dude, you know? But hilariously, I threw my little fit, then I cleaned everything up. I picked everything back up, you know?
Yeah.
And I went to eat. I was like, you know what? Put a pin in this. I can't do anything about it now. So went to eat, came back, and I was like, you know, I'm going to see if the internet's back on. And if it is, I'm going to finish the 5 minutes worth of work, And the internet wasn't back on, but I was able to make my phone thing work by actually going USB into the computer and unplugging my Ethernet cable and doing a bunch of stuff. I made it work, and I was able to get some internet. I think I had like 10 megabits up and down, which is enough to get Pro Tools happening and upload those stems. And so, you know, by 8 o'clock that night, I had everything done, you know what I mean? But hilariously, the very next day, a very important hard drive crashed on me. And at first I thought like, I guess in my anger, I killed her. You know what I mean? Like Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
But I actually think that drive was, because when I called the guys, I called Glyph because I was like, dude, this drive needs to come back. I was like, I need the stuff off this drive real bad. And they're like, yeah, we'll just send it in to us. And I was like, yeah. He's like, so what's happened with it? I was like, well, the fan, I think might have gone out. He's like, well, there's no fan in that drive. I was like, because I could hear the fan very clearly, and it was kind of loud, and now it's not making the fan sound anymore. And the guy goes, well, there's no fan in that drive. So if you were hearing a fan sound, that was a big problem. And I was like, okay, well, I've been hearing a fan sound for a while on that bad boy. So he's like,
is it? So it's not a solid state drive?
No.
Okay, so it was the disc spinning.
Yeah, and I think I'm done with those bad boys. This is a nice ass drive. This is a Glyph Black Box Pro, but they were using like not solid state drives in there.
Yeah.
And luckily, it's a drive. Glyph does a lot of production stuff, and they're like, send it back to us. Well, we can probably get your stuff back. And I was like, okay, great. So I boxed it up the first, on Monday morning at 9:00 and sent it off. But yeah, it had been on the blink for a while, I guess.
Okay, well,
Anyway.
shit, man.
It was a shitty week.
That's a shitty week.
I asked you, like, hey, when we got power, you're like, I'm in Mexico, man. I was like, you
Yeah,
and Ted Cruz.
So that's what happened with me. So like, for me, I let me bring this up here real quick. This is what I was up to.
Oh wow!
while everybody in Austin was freezing to death, I had a work function that took me to Playa del Carmen and Cozumel.
Awesome.
And this is Cozumel. It was pretty fucking rad.
Did you do any fishing?
Didn't do any fishing.
I see that, and I'm just like, you can fish from that jetty right there. There's no telling what you catch.
Yeah, and there were some people out there that were fishing, but we didn't have that much time on Cozumel. We did this whole thing.
It was like team building and stuff?
So they call it a hackathon.
Oh, okay.
And basically what that is the company gets together and they just basically spend a week heads down trying to build new products from scratch. And they bypass all traditional sort of agile processes, scrum groups and stand-ups and going through all of that. It's just all of that's gone. You figure out a way, you figure out what your goal is going to be, and then you build it in a few days and then you present it. So it's still work. It was a trip, but it was work because we're building features from scratch, and having to have a working demonstration.
Features for your product, or just like build any new thing
for the product.
Oh, yeah.
So, but it's also just like any new thing that's for the product.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of work that was being done, but it was being done in like this environment, like with scenery like this, And
wow,
this is one of the places we were staying at. That
looks warm and awesome.
It was incredibly warm. It actually reminded me a lot of like Okinawa. So like I grew up on Okinawa, and it's a tropical island south of the mainland of Japan. And I would wake up and it would be like 9 in the morning. This is a view of my workstation on that particular day. It would be humid as shit, like early in the morning, and very warm. But it felt normal to me. It felt familiar. So like it was a cool environment in that regard. Like I was having a lot of nostalgia. But I felt guilty too, because like I was sitting in this and like I'm reading all this shit about my friends, like, oh, they're without power. Oh god, the entire city's without power. It's day 2, there's still no power. I'm seeing people diving into dumpsters behind HEB and shit, and like cops like pulling them out and hauling them off and whatnot. And it's like, oh
what?
god, yeah, oh yeah, that was a thing that was happening.
Why?
Because people were trying to get to, this may have been day 3, but people were trying to get to the food that was thrown out. But hey, you little fat bitch, don't you get that? You've been eating way too much. I gotta.
You're fat shaming your cat.
I am fat shaming my cat. It's the only way to get her to control herself. Like, I gotta get an automatic cat
You
feeder.
called her a fat bitch.
I
guess you can still call a cat that these days.
You can still call a cat that. It's fine.
It's fine. She's fine.
She's fine. She's fine.
She's a cat. She's a cat, people.
She gives as good as she gets.
Yeah, we don't want your letters.
But yeah, I think I'm pretty certain. Yeah, that was like day 3 or so.
That's wild.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, a store will throw out their, expired food, and people who already, either had to throw out their expired food or don't have food to begin with.
Well, why were the cops stopping them?
Because, there's a
pull yourself together, guys.
A legitimate. There's the official reason, and then there's the real reason. The official reason is that they don't want people to ingest bad products, tainted food. And this is also at the behest of those companies, HEB and whatnot, because they don't want to, put themselves in a situation where they might be sued. I don't know why they would be if it was something they threw out.
Yeah, I'm afraid that would die in the court. It's like, where'd you get it? In the dumpster behind HEB. Well, I'm sorry, HEB isn't to blame for this.
Exactly, which is why
don't eat trash.
Which is why I think the real reason is because they just don't want product that they can sell to be given away for free.
So Guitar Center does the same thing.
Do they?
So sometimes guitars come in, they're fucked up or whatever, and like there's a lot of guys they'll dumpster dive Guitar Center.
Oh yeah.
But what they do is before they throw something away, they'll have an employee buck it up bad so it can't be resold or what, you know what I mean? Which is just kind of like, guys, that's really shitty.
It is scummy. Like, why wouldn't they just
donate it to a school? Yeah,
just donate it or resell it to a pawn shop or something. Like, take
probably
all that
because
shit.
They can't resell it because they have to claim it as a loss against their insurance. You know what I mean? And if they resell it, it's fraud on some level, and they'd rather get the insurance. Their corporate insurance.
Wait, why would it be fraud?
Because if they get a payout on it from their insurance, and the insurance finds out, well, they actually sold it. I'm sure that it's worth more as a complete write-off or a claim against insurance than it is at a pawn shop or being donated. You know what I mean?
What a waste! So rather than having this equipment being put into use in circulation, it's floating out in the middle of the ocean in that garbage patch the size of Texas.
Well, it's funny because I saw a guy, and it was a YouTube video. I don't know if they still do this, but it was a YouTube video from a couple years ago, and he had he found a fucking Les Paul in there that someone had taken a screwdriver to, and just raked a screwdriver over it to make it, essentially completely worthless, But all he did was he got it, pulled the stuff out of it. I think he fixed the headstock, he fixed the thing, and then he had it up and going, and he had a free Les Paul, Granted, it was scratched, but it was still, a usable instrument. Les Paul's a nice guitar.
Oh yeah.
So it's wild because a lot of companies will have some variation of that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
If we can't sell it, no one can have it.
And it's relatively innocuous when Guitar Center does it, but when you're in the middle of a disaster and people are starving.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. No one needs a Les Paul.
Yeah,
people they need food.
They need
you know
food.
What I mean?
They need food. While I was in Cancun, or not Cancun, but Playa del Carmen, I saw this graphic and I was like, "You did it again, Texas.
We did it.
You did it again.
Number one, dude."
Electric customers without power. Obviously, the one state in the red is red Texas.
And don't you know that some conservatives are like, hell yes, only red state and sea of blue.
I don't know if they're feeling that way about this particular graphic, but
I don't know, dude. The cognitive dissonance is strong, but it's funny. So many restaurants were closed. Of course, our power was off and the food was so I had to eat at restaurants. I ate at my dad. Look at my dad. He was nice enough to make us dinner a couple of nights. But when I was working and stuff, and one night I was kind of on my own and trying to find places to eat was a little rough. The first day before the power went off, or maybe it was after the power went off, El Dorado was still open. I was like, shit, awesome. I went there. And then, of course, later on that day, they were closed. and then everything else was closed, and then it like Nosh and Bevy, that place.
Yeah,
that place stayed open, dude.
Of course it did.
And,
what?
And like, dude,
that's like right on message.
On that Wednesday night, right? You know, after working for a while, I was like, man, I gotta find some food.
That's why it's open.
Yeah.
Grab a pint. Hey,
it was open and it was warm in there, and I had some Indian food and some iced tea, and it was great. Like, I was like, man, God bless these guys. They braved the storm. They came out here. They fired this shit up, and you know,
You go to your local pub.
Yeah, dude, it was great.
A pint with some mates. Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds like a good way to spend a crisis, I guess. But
it was packed too.
I'm sure it was.
Everyone was in there like, it's warm in here.
Well, I mean, that sounds like it could be a fun time too, in and of itself. But
yeah, I couldn't hang out for too long. I had to go back and work. But
yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot going on in the city now about who to blame, what to do to mitigate this in the future, which I've always been on the side of bury all the power lines, and whatever power line you can't bury, make sure that a tree isn't anywhere near it. Like within 20 feet of a power line should exist no tree.
I mean, I think that's probably burying the power lines is probably a great way to do it. It seems like that's impossibly daunting considering the amount of people they would have to do that for. However, Google Fiber somehow installed fiber all the way to my house.
Yeah, they're doing it right now in this neighborhood. Finally,
and that's just Google Fiber. So I don't know, man. Maybe they could figure out a way to do it. I don't really know. It's one of those things. Like, I was a lot more mad about it, a week and a half ago than I am now. But
well, yeah.
Here's the thing:
you were freezing.
Losing the power is okay, sure, but it was off for so long.
Yeah. That's the thing, and that's the part. Like you can expect some downtime here and there.
Yeah,
that's gonna happen, and especially when there are like crazy weather events that cause it. That's fine. That's understandable. Nothing is 100% fail-proof. The issue was that and it's kind of like a perfect storm of things that led to this. So the reason why this is more devastating than past ice storms is because we had a particularly brutal summer of just dry heat. It was hot as hell for a long time, and we had no rain. It was a bad drought. So that left all our trees brittle, just dry and brittle. And without moisture in those branches and in the trunks, they just couldn't withstand the weight of all that ice.
And there's another layer of it too. So in a lot of the neighborhoods in central Austin that are older neighborhoods, they're built in the 60s, they would plant ash trees in those neighborhoods because ash trees get real big and grow real fast.
Hold on a second. These shitting cats. God damn, I'm gonna light another candle. Oh, of course it was you, you fat bitch. I'm sorry, continue.
I was just saying that they ash trees grow real fast and get real big. The problem is that the ones planted in the 60s, they don't live very long. So there's a ton of really big, really heavy ash trees all over central Austin, and they're all at the end of their life. So they're all on the verge of the branches are falling off as it is, And so in my neighborhood, there was an enormous ash 2 doors down, and man, I watched huge sections of that thing just come off, crater the fence, you know what I mean? And our ash tree, we have an enormous one in our backyard, but we knew it was, we actually had it trimmed over the summer, and luckily they cut all the huge branches off, but there was even one branch of that tree that still broke and fell in our backyard, and I had to cut it off and cut all up and put it on the street. But we got really lucky in the fallen tree department, you know what I mean?
You didn't have any damage to your roof or anything. Well, I mean, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
That's a huge win.
Actually, it's funny. There were tons of downed trees in my neighborhood, but I didn't see anyone I did see one that fell on a dude's car, but I didn't see anything fall on a roof. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, this one guy had this huge cottonwood, and it's so tall. It was super tall, and I watched one of the branches at the very top of that just goo into the yard, and ice goes everywhere. I was like, whoa, dude. You know what I mean? It's pretty surreal.
Yeah, people were telling me that they were just hearing falling branches all over the place, which has got to be a surreal.
It was pretty surreal. You could hear generators. So in my neighborhood, there was a guy behind me had a generator. After I got mine, my friend across the street, he got one, and he actually hooked it up. He hooked it up to his breaker box. He found a way to another guy on the street clued him in on this way to
hook up a generator to his breaker.
Yeah, so
that doesn't sound.
Well, he went to the outside and he killed the city power because it wasn't coming down the line. He just didn't want it coming on.
Yeah.
While he was, and then he sent the thing to it and split the. I think he had two. Basically, they faked. I think he had two 120 lines, and they faked those on either side or something like that. And it wasn't a ton of amps, you know what I mean? But it was enough for them to run their heater and their dryer and like their TVs and stuff. And so, they generally had power during the thing. There was some stuff they didn't have, but I think they had their refrigerator.
Was it like a powerful generator or?
It was like a Honda. It was a pretty good one. He bought it used and he paid over twice what I paid for mine, brand new from Lowe's. So,
yeah.
I mean, I bought like the cheapest one that you could buy that would power my studio. You know what I mean? I was thinking about just taking it back, but I don't think I will now because the company bought it, and I was like, it's probably going to happen again.
Yeah.
Maybe. So probably.
Oh, it's certain to happen again. I mean, this is going to become a regular occurrence, which is just why stuff like this is going to be important. So let me go ahead and start this thing up.
City Council members plan to take a good hard look at Austin Energy and how city leadership responded to this crisis.
Isabella Basco spoke with the staff at one local business who say they just want to see the city do better.
At 3 a.m. Wednesday, Quack's 43rd Street Bakery lost power.
I love the
For 6
production
days,
on that.
the business stayed in the dark.
We didn't think it was going to last this long. We didn't get power back again until 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It was a total loss.
Among the bakery's losses,
Cookie dough, eclair shells, pastry creams, fruit fillings, pie shells, literally everything.
Quack's chief of operations, Heather O'Connor, says the bakery lost upwards of $50,000 to $60,000 worth of ingredients.
Oh my God!
And $150,000.
And just imagine, like, when you open back up, you need all of that shit.
Yeah, you got to buy it all again. Yeah.
Day one. That's.
I had no idea they had that kind of. Like, if I had $60,000 worth of perishables, you know what I mean, in my business, I would have a generator gassed up, ready to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I would just run the refrigerators on it.
Which makes me wonder, like, why a lot of these places don't. I guess they don't really think they would need it. That is, like, a big cost, but... I mean, this is just a bakery. Imagine, like, an actual restaurant.
Yeah, you can buy a pretty hefty generator for, like, $2,000. You know what I mean? Definitely run a couple of refrigerators.
Yeah.
And, like, that, I mean, maybe it's a drop in the bucket. Maybe they need all. Like,
I mean, $2,000 versus 60.
Well, that's my point. Like, how many? If they've got a walk-in freezer, it's got a condenser that makes it cold. How many amps does that thing need? Figure out what it takes,
and then get the
have the bad boy over there ready to go. You know what I mean? I mean, from now on, that's probably what they should do. I mean, shit, $60,000, and granted, they can claim it as an insurance, but I mean. I wouldn't want to. I'm sure the insurance company is going to be like, oh.
Well, they would. I mean, again, even if you claim it as insurance, like when the power's back on, you need to have that shit going day one. So
totally.
like you're going to be fighting with insurance companies, to get that reimbursement or whatever. So it really doesn't help you out immediately. Like whatever you lose when your power's out, you're just fucked. Hey, yo, what's up, Vince? How you doing? Welcome back to the stream.
And revenue.
We've lost a week of labor. My baristas also make most of their living off of tips. We lost all of that too.
The financial losses caused by the power outages left Quack's Bakery to create a virtual tip jar that would help repay the baristas what they would have made had they been open to the public.
It's something. It's better than, not working. So it was nice. It's nice to see that community reach out and kind of support the teams.
Losses like these are why Austin City Council members are evaluating the storm response Thursday. Councilmember Mackenzie Kelly is sponsoring an item to audit Austin.
Oh, that's in my neighborhood.
And its
Oh, is that your neighborhood?
Yeah, that's my neighborhood. So I actually just drove by that post, and I was like, "What is going on with that
right
thing?"
Here.
Yeah,
oh, that looks terrifying.
yeah. You know where this is? So that street right behind Conan's. So if you're on Burnett and you pass Conan's, the very next area where you can turn into my neighborhood.
I know the street you're talking
it's
about.
Ashdale. If you make a left on that thing is on the right, like a block and a half in, behind the Subaru dealership.
Is sponsoring an item to audit Austin Energy and its vegetation management plan. Members will also evaluate City Manager Spencer Cronk's performance.
That is something that is on the tops of the minds of many Austinites right now.
Is she your councilwoman?
I don't know.
I don't have one. We don't have city representation up here. Wells Branch is weird. It's weird.
It's like it's almost Pflugerville, but also it's Austin.
It's its own weird thing. It's in a couple of different counties. It's a weird thing. So, I'm aware of what's happening in Austin, but
I don't really know who my person is. I've never witnessed a meeting or anything.
Yeah. You're not enough of a crank to go to a.
Yeah, I vote for who the Chronicle tells me. I mean, I just look. The
The
Chronicle's like these guys. I read a little bit about them. It's like sounds good, and mainly just to keep the meatheads and religious fanatics off the city council.
To know who's responsible for the failure in communication and the widespread power outages.
Kelly admits she has a lot of anger and frustration over all the challenges Austinites faced over the last week.
It's absurd that people are still without power, and I don't ever want this to happen again, which is why the city council is digging into it.
That's
Bill
a
Clinton to be like,
O'Connor
I feel your
shares.
pain.
What's up?
Say Bill Clinton to be like, I feel your pain.
No, they need something way worse than that. They need somebody to be out there. They need somebody to be out there like, we're gonna find who's ever responsible for this. We're gonna make them pay.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I was actually. Yeah. I was like, there's a lot of people that need to be glad that the Force and magic aren't real. Because if they were, there'd be some people that were in deep shit. As far as I was,
for certain. Like that's always, that's always the risk. That's always the risk. I think a lot of people probably get into politics, local politics, because it seems like
they want to do good or help people or something.
Maybe not so much. Maybe just because it seems like it would be a relatively cush job. Talk to some constituents, make some connections. You're rubbing elbows with some pretty powerful people. Every now and then, you look important when something important is happening. There's some degree of separation between you and your constituents most times. But when shit like this happens, like this is when things can get real. Like when people are like without power for a long time, like they're gonna be looking at you. Like most people don't even really think about their city council. I didn't even really consider city council as a thing that existed until I heard that Tenacious D song. The City Hall song. I was like, oh yeah. I guess that is a thing that people can go to.
He's encroaching upon my decrees. We'll make him a duke.
But this is real shit. Like it's real shit. Like,
and people get pissed. Dude.
Businesses losing money is one thing, but like. If a hospital doesn't have power for a long amount of time.
Oh yeah, can you imagine if your relative had died?
Yeah.
And you're like always wondering dude, is it because you guys didn't have power? I mean, I think hospitals have generators and shit.
They do. Some do. I guess it depends. Like a nursing home or something like that, or anybody, or hospice care, or if you're taking care of somebody at home and you lose power, then holy shit, like it's a whole other situation. Like life and death. Literal life and death. There are people who are talking about how they had, just given birth to newborn babies, and then they were in 30-degree homes or 40-degree homes for days at a time. And, my friend was without power. Like her heater actually broke before the storm came.
Yeah.
And then she lost
Hilariously,
power.
same thing. My studio,
oh,
the
really?
air conditioner / heater was broken, and so even if I could have plugged it in. You know what I mean? It
just
wasn't
wouldn't have
working.
worked, yeah. But because I was in Mexico, I was like, hey, you can just come and use my room then, you know. But she had that option, and that was cool because I didn't want her or her dogs to freeze. But a lot of people just don't have that option, you know. So like, what do you do? Like the best that the city can do is say you go to a warming center.
A warming center.
I mean, if you're desperate,
it's
yes.
weird.
But fuck,
it's
man.
weird, you know. It's like, they need to like, we need to like figure out that like solar stuff or something. You know what I mean?
Power walls. That's what it is.
Those Tesla power walls are cool, and it'd be cool if like, we could like. So the one thing that they were onto for a while, which who knows if it actually worked. I mean, the power walls worked, but who knows if the ceiling, if the roof tiles worked, because it's Elon Musk saying it. You know what I mean? But like what they were talking about, where it looks like just regular shingles, but like the entire roof is solar panels. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like specialized solar panels that don't look or install like solar panels.
Yeah, they look just like regular
tiles.
roof tiles, and like they supposedly completely exists, and it's a Tesla product, and and they charge power walls, and you can use it if you have a Tesla car. You can, and it's just like if you always got a few power walls charged up, if the power goes out, you can run your house on those bad boys for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then the minute the sun comes out again, boom, they're charging back up. Like that's really cool.
It is.
That
really
would be
cool.
a really great way for someone.
And the great thing about those power walls is that they could also feed power back into the city.
Yeah.
So like you can have a lot of basically fractional power plants, in people's individual homes that could serve energy
and businesses and
to
all
businesses
that stuff.
to any back into the main plant, and then redistribute that out. And the reason why they don't want to do that though is because then you get into a situation where instead of paying a utility bill, you would get money back,
Yeah.
So, that and energy profiteers.
Well, the funny thing is
don't
that
like
that's
that.
one of the cool things about Austin Energy, though.
Hey, Gabrielle, how you doing? This is Justin.
Hello.
I'm sure you've said hi to him before. I don't know, you don't remember him.
But, I mean, the cool thing about Austin Energy is it is like a city nonprofit, utility that's not like in Dallas. The energy company is just a for-profit corporation that
I think in Houston as well.
Yeah, I mean it's shittier in that regard. So I mean I'm like, I of course the conservatives would look at something like this and be like, this is why we got to privatize energy, because the market forces would drive, people don't like it, it's like that works really, that's worked really great on the state as a whole. You know what I mean? It's just I think that like. I mean, call it climate change, call it, whatever. This was just kind of snake eyes, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a combination of so yes, the drought and the heat, weakening the trees, the perfect storm of just the right temperature and the right kind of precipitation and all of that.
Yeah, 6 degrees colder, it's snowing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The trees don't get that much ice. You know, it'd just be snow.
Yeah, and then also like just the city mismanagement on the trees themselves, because a lot of those trees just weren't properly maintained. The branches weren't trimmed, the branches along the lines weren't trimmed, and all that sort of stuff. So when they drop right on the lines. It's just a combination of all of these things, and then just climate change is all that weird shit. So it's like a perfect storm that I feel is only going to get a little bit worse as the years go on. Yo, what's up, Haunted Wisp? How you doing? There's a lot of refineries in Gary. Also, U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel. Gary.
Indiana. Gary, Indiana.
Yes, that's what I had to think about that real quick. Gary, Indiana.
Who are you?
Is that for you?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm Justin.
Who are you?
I'm Devin's friend.
Friend of many years and recent survivor of Icepocalypse 2023.
Yes. I mean, you go back on the YouTube channel, and I'm in a bunch of the streams.
Yeah.
And the original YouTube videos
From early on.
on.
They routinely spill toxic chemicals into Lake Michigan and get away with it because they are in Indiana. You know what? You just reminded me of that train crash. You see that in Ohio?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, there was a really bad train crash from a train that was carrying a bunch of crazy toxic chemicals.
Great.
And like it was just bulleting through the night in between this town, and like I don't know what happened. Derailed, crash, and then just like plumes of. Let me see if I can find it. Plumes of toxic smoke.
They're like, you should clear the area.
No!
Stockpile food. Probably should have already done that. Hope you did.
The opposite. I think they weren't telling people. Let's watch this.
Well, this is quite a crazy story.
It definitely is. Thousands of residents along the Ohio-Pennsylvania border are waiting to return home. Maybe some of them won't want to because there's been a massive controlled chemical release from a train wreck in that area.
The fiery train derailment occurred in East Palestine, Ohio on Friday. Some of the freight cars were carrying hazardous materials, and this is where it all gets really tenuous. On Tuesday, authorities began releasing and burning some toxic chemicals.
Cesium-137.
What?
I said Cesium-137 or whatever. It wasn't that.
Is that a reference to something?
It's a reference to an extremely virulent nuclear fuel.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think this was that, but...
Avoiding an explosion, mass evacuations were ordered for residents in the area. Officials are monitoring the wreckage as concerns grow over the environmental impact of the crash. Eric Olson joins us now. He is the Senior Strategic Director of Health for the Natural Resources Defense Council. Eric, welcome. You know, Errol and I were both just saying that
before I got near that train, I had a full head of hair.
Mandatory evacuation zone, we would feel really hesitant about ever potentially moving our families, our children back into this area.
Justin, oh Jesus! I think she asked you this before.
I know.
You know what a boomer shooter is?
I don't. Maybe because I look like a boomer. I don't know.
What? If you don't, what?
Doom is Doom a boomer shooter?
Yes, it is. You're right. Gabriella, maybe not threaten.
I know what a boomer shooter is. Hogan's Alley, the arcade game that with the fucking gun, like from the '70s. That's that's literally a boomer shooter.
That is literally a boomer shooter.
Is that a valid concern for them to have, given what has happened there?
Well, we know the immediate risk is breathing this stuff in. You've seen the pictures of these enormous clouds of toxic chemicals, and the fires certainly.
I love that a book he has on the shelf behind him just says peril.
Jeez, yeah, that's like some serious mise-en-scene right there.
Yeah, he's like, I really need to drive home the seriousness of what I'm going to be talking about.
What's crazy is that you can't really even see any of the titles of any of the other books.
No, it's just that one book.
It's like everything else is all like pixelated out.
But he wanted you to make sure that you saw that this is peril.
Are the immediate threat and breathing these toxic chemicals, but some of them can get into the groundwater if they spill as liquids. Some of them can also stick around for a while. So you want to make sure that we've cleaned that up and that people are not going to be exposed over the long term. And if I were living nearby, I would be asking tough questions about what we know about
can I breathe?
The long-term consequences of this
Should I move?
massive spill.
Well, Eric, help us dive into that very topic, because if residents are going to ask questions and they'll say, oh, is it safe? We've already seen issues in some cities where the drinking water isn't safe, hasn't been safe for years, but cities are so strapped that they can't address the replacements necessary. This is the type of stuff used to make PVC. I mean, these are very serious chemicals. How long, worst case scenario, could they be in the groundwater, and could they contaminate the area?
Well, one of the chemicals that is involved is vinyl chloride, which, as you say, is used to make PVC, a kind of plastic. And a lot of that can vaporize, it can blow off. But if it gets into the ground, it can dissolve in the water, and it can stick around in the groundwater for a while. So that's really one of the things I'd be worried about. I'd like to know what other.
Oh my God! Look at that shit.
Holy shit! Like that is not what you want to see. Like train derailments in general are pretty brutal, but man, if you're gonna have one, like
like grain
toxic,
or like,
or sand or gravel or something.
Those car chassis that you see on. I always see like car chassis on trains, like.
Really?
Yeah, like
from a junkyard.
No, like brand new, going like somewhere. Just a series of
like
car
factories,
chassis. Like all stacked on top of each other, like probably coming up from Mexico, going or going to Mexico. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be much more preferable than
it'd just be a bunch of junk.
May have been released, and frankly, sometimes even the chemicals that they use to put out the fire can be dangerous. So you want to really make sure that you've checked that water and that the water is not contaminated, the soil isn't contaminated, and if it is, it needs to be cleaned up.
What happens for residents then who don't feel safe? Who is responsible?
Okay, well, they're not doing that, so
checking all of these things for if it isn't safe, for finding them other homes to live. Is this going to be something that ultimately the federal government needs to step in on?
Well, literally, this is a hot mess, right? I mean, you've got a serious situation. You really need the federal government's resources and expertise to come in. The Federal Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, has a role. In many cases, the state also plays a very important role. But honestly, it really ought to be the polluter that pays for the cleanup and to make sure that the water is safe, to make sure that they've cleaned up any soil contamination and compensate anybody that's been harmed. And often the polluters get off without really any consequences. So I think it's very important to make sure that the people responsible for this incident are paying people that have been harmed by it.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of disasters happening right now.
Yeah.
It's a really rough start to 2023. This is all because of oversight of this shit is lazy, and the bottom line has them using old equipment. I don't know about the equipment for, as far as talking about Austin's power grid, that's definitely penny pinching there. The city doesn't want to invest in what they would need to invest in order to modernize our infrastructure. It's pretty tough to because everything that we would want to do seems to require introducing new taxes. And that is increasingly, and rightfully so, becoming like a stronger and stronger point of contention amongst Austin voters.
Yeah.
The tax issue here is pretty brutal, because there are only two sources that we can pull tax revenue from, and that's sales tax, which is a regressive tax on poor people, or property tax. And we've been leading on property tax so intensely that it's making the area just completely unlivable for anyone that isn't, flushed with cash.
Yeah.
But that's what we use to fund everything. So it seems like every time we have this initiative, whether we want to that big transit initiative from a few years ago, or anything else that we want to do, it all comes on the back of increasing property taxes.
Yeah.
So that's a surefire way to crush any kind of enthusiasm for doing something like modernizing our grid around here. I don't know how to get around that outside from, I don't know how to get around that in a realistic manner, rather. I'm always in favor of bringing back the state income tax, but that's not going to happen in Texas.
No.
Let's see. Yes, bingo. So they kick the tires and say, man, it'll hold. Correct. Now I will call Mr. Beast. I don't think Mr. Beast is going to be able to help in this situation. Look up the 1990 molasses flood. Gabriella, how do you not remember any of the people that frequently visit this stream? I will get to Fashion Police at some point too. I promise you, I will get to Fashion Police at some point too.
What is Fashion Police?
It's a game she wants me to play.
Oh.
First-person shooter, I believe.
better. But communication is key. But there are 73 people that work in this store, and having to communicate the needs of those 73 people and what we're doing with no information, it was difficult. It was gut-wrenching.
In Austin, I'm Isabella Basco.
As Austin Energy works to restore power to the final hundreds of customers still in the dark, all customers will see an increase in their bills starting next month.
And that's when the base rate hike will take effect. City Council approved that move late last year, and it's something many of you have written into us about. KXAN's Tahira Rahman is here to explain where all of that extra money goes. Tahira.
Yeah, Jennifer, Daniel, this will actually be the second rate increase that a lot of customers, all customers have seen in recent months. The first one came back in November. Austin Energy says that is to pay for ERCOT's higher costs for energy. This next hike is set to go into effect next month, and the utility tells me that will go towards efforts here in the community. This new city resource center is a blessing for Cynthia Allen Williams after the ice storm.
They gave us food, which we needed, especially from the winter storm.
I've never actually seen it happen before.
We needed, especially from the
ice storm.
They gave us.
Damn, I mean, honestly, it is kind of a cool look to see all the branches frozen like that.
Well, it was crazy because all the trees are hugging the ground. They're all hanging on the ground. Like, we have a crepe myrtle in our backyard, and it was literally bent all the way over. And then what's crazy is the minute it thawed, back up.
It popped back up?
Yeah, it was wild.
It was a well-hydrated tree.
Which we needed, especially from the winter storm, all the stores not being stocked up.
She's one of thousands who has power again thanks to Austin Energy crews.
I'm good, thanks.
The utility says its upcoming base rate hike will pay for things like employees and equipment.
So it's the cost of owning and operating Austin Energy.
Utility spokesperson Matt Mitchell says next month's increase will add nearly $30 million to their budget, which will also help pay for recovery from this ice storm.
So those include things like tree trimming, bucket trucks, labor, poles, transformers, conductor and contractuals, such as mutual aid.
He says part of the money will also be reinvested into infrastructure.
Any preventative measures that could be put in place to lessen the impacts of a storm like this in the future will be addressed in the after-action report.
Even so,
I got a hard
like
hat
Allen
back there.
Williams, another hike in her energy bill is another challenge she doesn't want to face.
The increase hurt a lot. Being able to keep the electricity on as is without a storm is hard.
Now, Austin Energy says some of the recovery costs from this ice storm may be reimbursed by the federal government, but that's a long process. They're still waiting, for example, on money back from the February 2021 storm. The utility says that's part of why this rate hike increase was so important.
So they're just holding money back, which is, I don't know why it's taking so long.
So if we can put all the world's power lines underground, and we definitely can, why don't we? I mean, there you are streaming your favorite show online when suddenly everything goes dark. You walk outside and you see that a fallen tree, a crashed car, or ice from a snowstorm has brought down your power line. It's moments like these I think most of us have pondered, why not just stick these power lines underground where they can't be damaged?
Hold on a second. Well, I was scared of Dean for a bit. Oh, I don't really remember what all that was about, but I mean, Dean doesn't ever come in this stream. I met him that one time when he was in town for that wrestling event, but that was about it. But I don't want to be ruled by my fears. I hope that all of that, whatever was going on there, has been put behind you, man. And I don't ever want you to feel like you're unsafe here, but whatever that situation was all about, I'm just not aware.
What?
I don't know. Literally not aware. Dean is another YouTuber. I met him through Raya, actually.
Oh, okay.
And I was on a stream with him once, way back when the Amico stuff was popping off.
Oh, yeah.
And that was about it. He messaged me when he was coming to Austin for an AEW wrestling show. I go to those.
Oh, really?
I've been to every one they've had in Austin. It's fun. I don't care what anyone says, man. Wrestling is fun. Like it's a performance. It's performance art, you know. And it's entertaining, especially when they don't take themselves seriously.
It's
and
fine,
a lot of these dudes don't. you know, which is actually funny because I was sitting behind somebody or sitting in front of somebody who, well, for starters, I don't ever pay because I know people that work the event, so I just get comp tickets. But I was sitting in front of people who were really taking it seriously, like really taking it seriously. And I was just like, oh my God, dude, are you kidding me? He's like, you're not a real wrestler, Orange Cassidy. You aren't a real wrestler. I was like, what? It's like you never had to do a real move.
No one is a real wrestler.
I was like,
it's all fake.
It's like, well, I mean, I can go off on a tangent on that sort of thing, but I'll save that for a different stream. Needless to say, I go to those whenever they come into town. And he just happened to be there, so, you know, said what's up to him, and that was the long and short of my interaction. But hopefully, you know, you feel okay. Gabriella, I don't know what you're doing. You're having like a fit. He seems like an okay guy, but definitely don't like to be at his YouTube line of fire. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, you're safe here then, because he doesn't ever really come in here.
Of course, it's not that simple. Besides the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles not wanting their living room crisscrossed by our power lines, there are a couple of real obstacles to underground power. Essentially, it boils down to two things: cost and reliability. In 2002, an ice storm knocked out power to over 2 million customers in North Carolina. At the time, the possibility of placing overhead power lines under the ground was investigated. However, the price was deemed too great. The North Carolina Utilities Commission concluded in their report that the price tag would be $41 billion and would take about 25 years to complete. Compounding on that, customer rates for electricity would have to more than double to pay for the project. You see, while most people would prefer underground power wires, they don't want to pay for them. The Edison Electric Institute surveyed customers on whether they would be willing to double their electric rates in exchange for underground electric wires. The overwhelming majority responded no. This extreme estimate is not alone. A survey of numerous other studies placed the cost of converting overhead power lines into a similar range. The estimates reached anywhere from $500,000 to $5 million per mile. When I first read that, I thought, no, that can't be right. It wasn't until I dug into the numbers that I realized the complexity in converting different power lines isn't equal. This variation stems from the types of power lines you want to convert and their corresponding locations. You see, power lines come in all sizes. They range from large cables for mainline power transmission all the way down to the small wires for local distribution in your backyard. All of those different power lines crisscross the world in rural, suburban, and urban areas. Some parts of the world even have such a rocky subsurface that placing power lines underground would be wholly unfeasible. Take regions of Colorado or New Zealand.
Fine. You don't really need to place power lines underground like in a super remote area. Like if it's someplace where like the actual distribution of the wires themselves is pretty straightforward, like you're just crossing a mountain range, then if there's a failure, it's usually pretty easy to identify and it's pretty easy to fix, so long as like you again, you know, make sure that the area around it, you know, doesn't have a lot.
Didn't Nikola Tesla like figure out like wireless power? Didn't he like have a whole field of light bulbs that he lit with this one tower?
I think that was a myth, an urban legend, but I don't know. I remember hearing something about that, but I feel
I heard that he did it, but that like, you know.
So you just want to do away with wires altogether?
Well, I hate wires, but
of course, yeah, you would uniquely hate wires.
But I mean, you know, if there would be a way to like, you know, just have everyone has power off everything you need all the time.
Hello, it is me, and I don't even believe in power lines. Yo, what's up, Maniacal Toaster? How you doing? You should believe in power lines because they believe in you.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Examples. Obviously, though, underground power lines do exist. Typically, underground power lines are installed in local neighborhoods that are built from scratch. This is because the cost of placing power lines underground is tremendously lower there. Think about it. No buildings have been built yet, no asphalt poured for roads, No pesky humans living there to complain about tearing up their perfectly landscaped yards. And the ground is already trenched for sewer, water, gas, and so on. I actually saw a Reddit post from someone who claimed to be an estimator for a large electrical contractor. Apparently, a large part of the cost from installing power lines in cities is from fixing the yards of wealthy people. I don't know if it was an exaggeration or not, but the Redditor talked about how they had ripped up a dead bush to install a line. When they went to plant an almost identical bush in its place, the customer refused. In the end, the customer was compensated to the tune of $5,000 for a single plant. Makes me wonder what the going rate is for my great-great-grandmother's golden tree of infinite happiness. Okay, onward to reliability, and this one's a bit muddier. Placing power lines underground does indeed increase their resilience to some types of weather. However, it's not a panacea for all weather-related damage. Being underground does offer protection from the elements. The lines are safe from the weight of winter ice or the gusts of hurricane-force winds. But did you know they aren't entirely immune to storms? Just like their above-ground counterparts, lightning can still strike the transformers and other equipment for underground power lines. Furthermore, they aren't safe from a falling tree. Instead of the trunk falling on the lines, the tree's roots can sever the underground cable. Perhaps even more so than their above-ground counterparts, underground power lines are susceptible to earthquakes. Since the entire length of the line is now underground, any large movement or liquefaction of the ground anywhere along the whole cable could render it useless. Speaking of damage, most damage to underground power lines comes from people digging without knowing where the cables are. There are plenty of examples of knocking out power to whole neighborhoods with errant construction equipment or homeowners and a shovel. Now, what you gain in protection from storms by being underground, you trade for flooding. Each year, we seem to have an example of how flooding can knock out underground power. Recent examples that come to mind include Hurricane Sandy in New York, Hurricane Harvey in Texas, and Hurricane Irma in Florida. While these are extreme examples, any underground area is susceptible to flooding, especially should the pumps keeping water out fail or be otherwise overwhelmed. Taking all of this into account, the failure rate of physical equipment for underground power lines is higher. Contrary to popular belief, new power lines installed below ground have a life expectancy of about 40 years, with older lines having even lower life expectancies as low as 30 years. Like it or not, above-ground power lines last twice as long. Those power lines are expected to last 80+ years. Some parts of the world already have power lines that are 60 to 70 years old. I'd imagine that's older than anyone who will watch this video. If the cable does fail, it can take days or weeks to locate the issue and make repairs, versus just mere hours for an above-ground line. Since the power line is underground, digging might need to occur to even get to it. Some companies are beginning to combat this issue by implementing smart grid technology. In the future, this technology will assist in locating the failure, but it won't speed up repair times. To wrap up, I want to take a minute to talk about some things we can and are doing in places where we choose to build above-ground power lines. You may have noticed in recent years an increase in metal poles for power lines. This is an ongoing effort to strengthen our energy infrastructure. These sturdy metal poles are replacing wooden ones that might be knocked over by a storm. Additionally, we can reinforce wood telephone poles with tension cables. These cables, or more specifically guy wires, add strength by anchoring the wood pole to the ground. On top of strengthening the poles that hold the power lines, we can manage the vegetation in the area. Vegetation management encompasses a whole host of things, but mainly it means keeping the vegetation healthy and in check. That means we can prune the trees to prevent limbs from taking out power lines, and we can also use water and pesticides on trees to keep them healthy. So the next time you...
In a prior stream, we had estimated like the cost of desalinization plants.
It was very high.
It was incredibly expensive. Like
I think we answered our own question on that deal.
Yeah, but like part of the reason why I really wanted to posit that scenario was because there would be a lot of value in like just being able to pump water from the ocean, desalinize it, and then just use it as fresh water to hydrate a lot of this vegetation to help prevent wildfires in California and whatnot. But it'd be helpful for this sort of thing too.
Haunted Wiz says consumer wireless power will be here in 2025.
consumer wireless power provided by who? Wisp? Do you have a sense on that? Because like I haven't heard anything about it for quite a while. I thought it was just like an urban legend. This video tells nothing but filthy lines. They should give the underground wire scuba gear. I mean, you say that, but I'm sure there's some way to make it more resilient towards flooding. Like it's all just like figuring out how to retrofit our current infrastructure to the coming weather or climate apocalypse.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I just.
Okay.
I'm generally powerless to do anything really about any of this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like you could vote for, but I mean, in Austin, generally, you're voting for like the same. Everyone's, representing generally the same thing, and there's not.
Oh yeah, like this isn't like
there's not any good solutions.
Yeah, I don't think any of this shit will be fixed by voting for anyone.
No.
Like that's.
It's just like eventually there'll probably be some technology maybe where it's not an issue anymore, maybe or something like that.
No, I don't think
we'll have some variation of those Powerwall things, and when the power goes out, we'll just be like, "Oh, that's cool." Maybe it'll something like that. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I don't see either that or like it'll be like a nuclear winter and all the plants will die anyway. You know what I mean?
Nuclear winter.
Power lines won't be an issue. I would know.
Wow. Cheerful.
Yeah, I just don't really know what the fix is. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is about like a lot of what we're watching here is that there are ways to like mitigate it, and obviously that video talked a lot about the downsides of burying your power lines. But that's like if you apply it as like a universal, like you're burying them everywhere. And it would obviously be, a give or take here or there. You bury them in some places and keep them above ground in others. Like, there are solutions. Like, it's not like we don't have the ability to mitigate a lot of this stuff.
I mean,
it's hard to imagine getting to, like, we don't have the capacity to make big moves anymore. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, I think that like honestly, it's more of a thing of like raw manpower. Like what they should have done, one thing they could have done is they could have called in municipal workers from other cities, kind of like they do when there's like a shortage or a disaster somewhere. You know what I mean?
Wait, for what though?
To help clear the trees off the lines.
And they do that sort of stuff every now and then. I don't think they did it for Austin this time.
I think they probably should have. Like that would be something they could have done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, call in like a bunch of people from Dallas and Houston and San Antonio to like increase the manpower. Have them come down here with their trucks. You know what I mean? Increase the manpower and just get.
Was Austin ever declared a disaster area? Well, that's also a part of the problem because declaring it a disaster area frees up federal funds to be able to do stuff like that. So
I mean, they could have done stuff like that. I guess I don't see like a major overhaul they can do other than just coming up with some like oh shit plans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, $41 billion. And that was for that town in North Carolina, it'd be way more than that here for sure. You know what I mean? And then you got to deal with eminent domain in Texas, having to deal with that in a state that's got like a lot more of a, landowners have a lot of power here,
Yeah.
It's like, there's just, that's not a thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think mitigation, probably disaster mitigation is where they'll want to, put all their eggs. I mean, if they could find enough budget to, train a series of drones using AI to fly around the city and look at the power lines and see trees. That's one thing they could do. They could have a bunch of drones and an AI that's designed
I mean, don't even need to use drones and AI. You can just look at a tree and be like, oh, that's over the line.
Yeah, but sometimes, like for instance, like the lines run behind my house, right? And there's another street, right? So the backyards do this, and the lines run in between, and like an area. But it's all trees and stuff. From the street, it's really hard to tell. That's one of the reasons why it took so long in my neighborhood. That's what the guys told us. They were like, it's like all these houses. There's so many trees down. We're having to go into people's backyards, and if they're not home, we gotta like wait and like knock on their door and leave them a note and all this kind of stuff. And it just takes forever. But like, you gotta have drones flying around using AI to look for trees that are hanging over power lines, and then have the city cut them, on a daily basis. Just like, the drone squad says there's a tree over the power lines on, so and so lane.
That's what I like. That's a part of what I don't get. Like, if I was gonna be a crank at city council over this issue, my question would be, who's in charge of pruning the trees, which it should be Austin Energy, and how frequently do they actually perform those tasks? Because like, it's not like they don't know to prune trees near power lines. I just don't know if they do it.
Yeah, and they could probably also develop some kind of fairly rudimentary technology that like of a line that is actually above the power line, so another line that would actually tell them right where a tree hits a line. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead of them being like, well, this part of the grid's off, so it's got to be between here and here. Let's go look. It's like there's a line that they install that runs along all the power lines. They just go and tack it on, but there's something about the line, whether it uses some kind of like some kind of like pulse technology or something like that, to where when there's a breach of the line, it knows where it is.
You know what we need? We need all of our power lines to be, all of the poles that the lines connect to.
Yeah.
We need them to be retractable, so that when it's a freeze coming, you hit the button and it just goes, and it's underground. And then the ice storm comes, and the ice storm passes. You hit the button, goes up, and it's back to normal.
That.
Yeah. This is what fucking Bezos should be spending his money on.
Yeah, everything Bezos has got might do it.
It was at CES 2022. You sit at your desk and it powers all your stuff in a field of potential energy to recharge things. They finally had a cold fusion reaction that put more energy out than in.
Yeah.
I do recall reading that.
Well, they did, but there's a lot to that, right? It actually isn't more energy out than energy in. The reaction itself made more energy, but it took
a lot of energy to get
of
that.
lasers as hot as the surface of the sun to make it happen, and it's still.
Well, I mean, it was still the point that they had the cold fusion reaction that they wanted. It was just getting to that point.
Making the reaction happen requires a lot of energy right now.
Yeah. Still a cool development, but who knows how long it'll take if we actually can get to the point where it's actually less energy in than out. In the late 1800s, they had these giant pillars of light every couple blocks, and people would use the curtains to have light at night and shut it off and go to sleep. I don't know what that.
I don't know about that. I know in Austin they had those moon towers, but those weren't pillars of light.
Yeah.
They were just lights on huge poles that looked down over the city because there was a serial killer killing people.
All right, you want to talk about Tesla or Twitter rather?
Yeah, we could do that. I was starting to fade, man, when we were watching that last video. Watching. I was like, it was someone watching the stream. They'd be like, dude, is that dude on the right? Or the left? Is he falling asleep? Because I was like,
I had to put on some slides from like a 11th grade fucking urban development class. Wouldn't it be nice if they taught urban development in high school?
Yeah, I know.
Twitter glitches pile up as key features fail. So this happened yesterday, I believe.
Yeah.
I remember I was trying to DM someone.
You tweet.
I do tweet. It went down. I didn't even think much of it though, because Twitter has been such a trash pile lately anyways that if it breaks, it's just normal that it's broken. Many users said they could not post tweets or message one another on Wednesday as the hashtag Twitter down hashtag has been trending. Twitter users around the world reported... Oh, hold on a second. I gotta get my ambiance back. Oh, shit. Did you wake up early again today?
Oh, yeah.
You always wake up early.
Well, on Thursdays and Fridays, I take Juniper to school, so it's like waking up at like
6.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So you're about tapped out then.
I'm fading, but I'm here. So
I mean, we don't have to do these stories.
We can make it through these stories.
I've got a boxing game we can try to play.
I can try to play that. We can try and go through. I don't have a lot to say about this Twitter thing that we haven't already said.
Yeah,
but,
this is just like keeping up with the slow motion car
totally.
crash.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen with this. I think that he should start working on power walls and quit working on this. I think he should sell it for whatever he can get for it and move on with his life. You know what I mean? I don't think Twitter is as important as he thinks it is. I think that I personally don't use it, and it seems to be just like a source of major contention, like it's a contention engine. You know what I mean?
It is, especially for him. Like,
yeah, but it's just like everybody. It's like people mad about this, mad about that. You know, like right wing incel edgelords are mad they can't say, or happy they can say slurs again. You know, people are, mad that Dave Chappelle won a Grammy. It's a whole series. People just mad about shit.
Dave Chappelle won a Grammy?
Yeah, he won a Grammy for The Closer, won Best Comedy Special. People are on Twitter like, how can this be? It's like, I don't know. Possibly the people in the Academy that voted for him,
they liked it,
aren't on Twitter and liked it. They don't share your politics, I guess. I don't know. But you got a deal,
I mean, that happens. Like, fucking Louis C.K. won a Grammy a few years back.
Well, the year before last. Yeah. And they're still mad about that. In the same thread, they're like, Dave Chappelle and Louis C.K., both pieces of shit, won Grammys. Like, slow down, random Twitter person. You know what I mean? You don't know either one of those guys, so
well,
relax.
Like, Elon Musk seems to think his own employees are shadow banning him. Musk reportedly sacked one of Twitter's engineers after they suggested his lower than normal engagement might be because people aren't interested in him. So
wow.
It's generating like true mania. He's becoming like isolated and weird.
It is. What's so awesome is that was totally that moment from that episode of The Simpsons where he's like, the original dog from hell. He's like, you mean Cerebus?
Cerebus?
Who's that? He's a dog that guards hell. And he's like, no, I mean someone really proactive. Someone with a lot of synergy. He's like, aren't words like proactive and synergy just words two people say to make themselves sound smart? I'm fired, aren't I? Yes, get out of here.
That's funny. I always love that. He's the original dog from hell. You mean Cerebus?
Yeah. That was gold.
That was gold. Elon Musk loves Twitter so much he's before he went buying it, but now under the billionaire's leadership, the site isn't doing so hot. Between layoffs and quasi-voluntary departures, Twitter has lost more than an estimated 3/4 of its staff it once had. This week, Musk brought the company's headcount down by at least one more, firing one of the site's top engineers over his personal Twitter account's engagement numbers, according to a Thursday report from Platformer. As the tech outlet describes, the billionaire called a meeting over a relatively low number of impressions his tweets have been getting recently. In response, engineers attempted to demonstrate with data that maybe people are just tired of hearing from and about Musk. Ballsy to tell him that.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that's the thing. He should have promoted that guy, not fired him. Because that guy's obviously not afraid to tell him shit that he didn't want to hear.
But he doesn't want to hear it, though. That's the thing. He doesn't want to hear it. The Twitter workers showed the CEO a Google Trend chart that illustrates the amount of interest in Musk has fallen by a factor of 10 since April 2022, along with other internal data. In a retaliatory outburst, Musk sacked one of the engineers on the spot. You're fired, he declared. I don't know how accurate this is, but
yeah, totally.
I would like to believe that it's very accurate. You're fired, he declared, according to Platformer's journalist, and attribute to an unnamed source close to the matter. The billionaire has further reportedly asked employees to spend their already stretched time keeping track of how often each of his posts are recommended to Twitter users. What?
Wow, man. I think the dude might have lost it, man. If any of this shit's actually true.
Yeah, if it's true.
I mean, what outlet is this? Is this Gizmodo?
This is Perform. What is it called? Platformer by way of Gizmodo.
Yeah.
So I'm not for certain.
Yeah. Is this related to Kotaku?
Gizmodo, yes. Platformer, okay. I don't believe so. I think this is something different.
Okay.
Let's see.
it's very possible. I'm just saying.
No, it is. It is incredibly possible. It's incredibly possible. Like, that's the thing, though. Like, it's just when you read it on the face of it, it just sounds so far-fetched that it's like, this can't be real. Like, this can't be
He's mad
accurate.
that no people aren't reading his tweets. It's crazy. And he wants, like, if you look at a chart of my, I am actually down by a factor of 10 from the same time 2 years ago. What is going on here, people? And it's like,
well, I guess people are just kind of sick of seeing you in the news.
You're fired.
You're fired.
You're fired.
You're
Get
fired.
out of here. Get your shit and hit the road.
You're shadow banning me. Get out of here. Yeah, like what?
I mean, these are the people that stuck with him when he said he wanted hardcore people. These are people theoretically that should be his like simps.
Like the most hardcore of his simps. Yes.
You know.
Since Musk's turbulent reign began, Twitter has been losing advertising revenue and users alike. One recently published report found that the site's number of active U.S. users declined by nearly 9% between October 2022 and January 2023. Some are probably put off by Musk himself and others by the diminishing quality of the platform. In the bedlam of the post-purchase Twitter, the site has instituted a number of unpopular changes that nobody asked for. Often, after inevitable backlash, the adjustments end up being temporary or partial. In either way, it's difficult to keep track of what's actually going on the platform. What features are in, what's out, what works, what doesn't. An example of the latest point of confusion, private accounts might not actually be private, and or the view counter that Musk has become so frustrated with might be totally wrong. I get that sense too. I actually seen some evidence of that. On Thursday, Washington Post journalist Taylor Lorenz posted about her own Twitter test that seemingly reveals something is off. On a private locked account with 0 followers, Lorenz still logged tens of views on a tweet. Yeah, I've seen weird stuff like that too. I've seen some that like it had more likes than it did views, which doesn't make sense. Like it's just there's just a lot of weirdness. The platform's really weird right now.
Like, say they get all this figured out. Who cares?
Well
I mean, it eventually gets back to the way it was a little while ago.
Exactly, but the thing, it's not even just like who cares. It's say they have all this figured out. Like, how much revenue have you lost along the way?
Well, that and they have to start paying their interest payments over the summer, and like supposedly they're extremely high.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And the thing is that I guess when I say who cares, what I'm saying is that like at the very best they get back to a level of functionality they had before he essentially flew it into the ocean.
They lost much money along the way of getting back to normal.
And then it's like, okay, you get back to normal. Maybe it's a little better. I mean, in the sense that, you know, it's not better. I mean, just for Elon Musk would think it's better because, you know, people aren't getting banned for being idiots or whatever. I mean, I just don't even know what this is such a weird hill to die on. It's like at least with like fucking power walls and that kind of shit. There's like at the end of the money you have something.
You have an awesome product that has value.
Even if it's like the Cybertruck or fucking the rocket to space, at least you've got something. The money is going to something that has a tangible value that's cool or has some value. Twitter has no value.
Well, I mean that you're talking about like the big bugaboo with tech in general, like. A lot of these overvalued tech companies have like no real product. Like, again, it's kind of the old adage, like if you don't have to pay for it, you're the product. Like it's all about user data.
Totally.
And apparently the user data that Twitter gets from all of its users just isn't that valuable. Like for one reason or another.
And I've read all the think pieces in Slate and the Atlantic about, you know, how Twitter is really important for X, Y, and Z. But honestly, I find those unconvincing. I think if Twitter were to go away tomorrow, you know what I mean, the world would completely go on. Stuff would still happen.
Yeah.
People would find some other thing to like post on.
Yeah, they would just move to the other thing.
You know what I mean?
It would be like when Friendster went to MySpace and MySpace went to Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened so many times.
You know,
at this point.
It would just be a different thing.
Yeah.
And we've already identified several, whether it's Mastodon or Hive or
that, and
any
it's
of
like
the other
all the
things.
kids are on TikTok anyway.
And TikTok is
Twitter
already
is only populated by a subset of like certain types of people on both sides of the thing, but they're like the kind of, you know, and it's those people just are kind of caught in an intractable,
it's not just political.
Of,
there are different ecosystems within Twitter too. Black Twitter. You have anime Twitter, gaming Twitter. All of these weird little ecosystems.
You're right, but they do all weirdly cross in like the culture of politics. On some level, like not specifically about politicians or whatnot, but about what we would consider the culture wars, or like this like constant, this never-ending, unstoppable force meeting an unmovable object that just seems to drive the conversation. You know what I mean? It's like that. It just seems like it's all some variant of that, whether it's fucking Witcher stands losing their minds, you know what I mean? Because Henry Cavill quit, and they're all on Twitter flipping the fuck out.
Yeah.
Half of them are right-wing trolls mad because they didn't cast a redhead chick as Triss or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like that. It all happens there. Or a whole other group of people mad because someone misgendered Sam Smith on the fucking Grammy performance. They're all on Twitter losing their minds. You know what I'm saying? It's like.
You watched the Grammys, didn't you?
No.
You didn't?
No,
okay. A number of Grammy references, and I'm like...
I thought, I read the news in my feed, I guess, because I'm in the music business, and the algorithm knows what I get a lot of entertainment stories.
Gotcha.
What I mean?
Well, what do you think about this?
I haven't seen this yet.
Is South by Southwest Play for Exposure model outdated?
Oh, yeah.
Musician advocacy group demands better pay. I didn't know that this was still a thing. Pay for exposure.
No, play for
exposure,
exposure,
rather.
Well, the idea is that they don't get paid. You get paid in wristbands, and you get to play.
Oh, as the band.
Yes.
Oh, when you okay, so when you sign up and
it's like a huge honor. See, classically, getting in South by Southwest was like almost impossible. I mean, or unless you were signed, or it was difficult, and it was considered a huge honor to get in. And the idea is that you might.
Okay, now I'm back. Welcome back, Gabriella.
Welcome back. Welcome back. You might get seen, by somebody.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is that doesn't really matter anymore, and now they're just basically here to entertain, and they should be getting paid.
Yeah,
you know
of
what
course. I mean? Yeah, they absolutely should be getting paid. Like,
and that's not going to happen at all. No way in hell.
Even at the peak of South by Southwest's popularity, was that exposure valuable?
Yes.
It was? Okay.
I mean, so it changed, right, over the years of what you were actually being exposed to, right? Originally, it was record labels. Like, in the late 90s, in the, 96, 97, 98, 99, I mean, South by Southwest was like a shortcut to, like, you could go to South by Southwest, and if you had a good show and someone saw you, you could get signed from that one show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of times, the bands that came to South by Southwest were already about to be signed or on the verge, and they would come and kind of do a showcase, but they would open stuff up. And it was also, and then as it transformed, and it wasn't so much about record labels anymore. Because at one point, it was all about record labels finding these bands, because one place you could go and see just tons and tons of bands,
Yeah.
Eventually, it became about rock press. So if you were an indie label and you had a band and they had an album coming out, you could go and you could do South by Southwest, and you'd get
write-ups and
maybe
shit.
the guy from Rolling Stone happened to catch you. Maybe someone from Spin.
Was this before Pitchfork?
Pitchfork is on the tail end of this period.
Yeah.
So someone from Spin might see him. Someone from, and you would message all these guys because they're all going to be there. You'd really work it. I mean, my friend is a booker for Kimmel. He used to have to go to South by and check out bands that possibly they might want to book on Kimmel. It was a big thing. Then music blogs became essentially the one of the driving force in discovering new music.
Yeah.
And they were all there. They'd have parties and stuff. And so it was music press, music blogs, things like Pitchfork and Gorilla vs. Bear and stuff. And that was all. It was about getting your bands in front of them. And then, and this is like 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then after that,
it just that I feel like that's probably when South by became less about discovering bands and getting the write-ups and press. It was just like, you know, you still had those bands, but it seemed like the focus was more on like just getting big established artists in.
It was, and that's when it became. It kind of lost the idea of bands. You still could come here and play, and you might get seen by someone, or you might get a meeting, or a publisher might see you, all that kind of stuff. It's just like, that's where the industry is. They're almost all there.
Yeah.
For every aspect of the industry, publishing, writing, producers, everybody's there, and you can go there, and you know, who knows what'll happen. That's it. You know, it was always that, but that became like the only thing really going for it. And like, it also became just about big shows and getting big, and artists could come make a splash. And for people that were going, like, you might see some crazy stuff. And it became a lot about brand activations after that. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
It was just like, oh, there's going to be a show, you know, Yeti's doing a show with a showcase at the Yeti place, and it's going to be these artists. And we go see Jason Isbell or whatever it was. And then after COVID, like...
I don't know about what happened after COVID.
A couple of years before COVID, I didn't even go. You know what I mean? And then COVID, because like a lot of people quit coming. Like my friend, his wife is a publicist with like huge bands, and she said like probably somewhere in like 2013, 14, she's like, we just stopped telling our bands there's no point even going. You know what I mean? It's just like, what's the point? And that's kind of the way it was. I mean, it was still a party. It was someone would go, but it became more about brands at that point. You know what I mean? You could.
What is, and maybe this is this is gonna take the conversation to a much broader direction. Oh man, because like way back in the day, I actually used to pay attention to like, you know, the music industry and the music scene, just as, you know, someone that was interested in it. But I stopped years ago. Like, what is the current state of like the music industry right now? Like live music, bands, performers.
I would
say the pipeline, and also like the pipeline from becoming like an underground artist of some form to getting, you know, is getting signed even a thing that matters anymore?
Not really. It's completely radically different now. And there's a really great episode of, it might be in Vox or it might be Vice, about the role that TikTok plays and shit. It's all about social media and stuff. And there's not a lot of bands. I mean, there are lots of bands, but no one really. Bands don't drive record sales anymore, and no one really, like, even people that play like are solo. There's just not a lot of, like, most of the bands that can tour around and be big got big in a previous period.
Yeah.
Even like the last wave of bands, whether it's like the National, the Strokes and stuff. There's just not a lot of like super new bands that are on the charts. There's indie bands that you can listen to on like Sirius XM and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
there are indie bands. There's still bands that come up and whatnot, and they'll play shows and all of that sort of stuff. But it just seems like I don't know. Like when you're talking about what South by was all those years ago, South by was like that was the culmination. Like you would form a band, and your goal would eventually be to play South by. And you would play all of these shows leading up to it. You would gear towards South by because the whole point was to get signed. You wanted to get in front of a record executive and get signed.
If you could get in, you know?
If you can get in, but even if you couldn't get in, you might play an ancillary show somewhere out on the outskirts of South by. And I've known several people that have done that.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, but like. So what do those bands do now?
Well, they're on TikTok and they're on YouTube. A lot of like bands and stuff like have YouTube channels and stuff so they can engage directly with their fans. Yeah. And they'll be on they put songs out a lot. Like you got to put out a lot of content, and you know it's a completely different thing. You know what I mean now than it was. Like, that was the thing. They say that in the thing about TikTok is like, if you want to be like an artist now or come up, you've got to like put out. And one chick is like, you got to be posting, you know, multiple times a day. And I sent it to my friend, a guy I'm in a band with. I sent it to him and I was like, when are you supposed to write fucking songs? You know what I mean? It's like if you're constantly making TikTok videos and shit like that. And like, there's this guy right now. His name is Jake. And his name, it's like an A, but it's upside down. It's like a V, but it's like, but it's like, and like, or Jax, Jake, I think is his name. And he's actually big, but he got big on TikTok just ridiculously. He was making TikTok videos, and he's like a, you know, he's like a Gen Z dude, you know. He's making TikTok videos with his mom, and in one of his videos, he was like, he made a little song, a little beat. And when I say a song, he basically took a beat from somewhere, you know what I mean? And just connected the dots over it, which is basically, he just sang over it. And he was like, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. And he made a little video to that and put it on TikTok, and it got like a gazillion views. And then like a guy like a day later is like, can you make this into a full song like in the next like 6 hours? And he's like, yeah, sure, I guess. And so he like just fucking vomits some shit over that, you know what I mean? And then puts it out, and then this guy picks it up, and then he's getting all this engagement, and they get it on Spotify, and then he's getting a lot of listeners on Spotify from TikTok, and then the record labels come out of nowhere. They're like, we want to sign you right now. So basically, that's what I'm talking about. It's when you watch this video, it's mind blowing.
So
how different it is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You basically just described like a jingle artist, you know?
Yeah, but even a jingle artist, there's more artistry in a jingle artist than that, because a jingle artist has to like listen to someone's specs.
Yeah, and like gear music towards. This guy just basically was like doop 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 doop, and then like damn, dude. So do they record albums anymore?
I mean, maybe eventually, but he doesn't really need to. He just makes new songs. He's got to make new songs constantly, but it doesn't take him any time at all to make the songs, because it's not like he like starts at a piano and writes a song with a melody and then has a drummer play drums or plays drums himself and then plays bass.
How does he monetize this?
You know what I mean?
His name is Jake. Do you?
Yeah. Hold on. Go on YouTube and put in Spotify. Put in Spotify and TikTok. TikTok music's. TikTok new music. Ah, damn it. That's not. I'm trying to put in TikTok Vox piece. Yeah, go down TikTok Vox Pop. Click on that. That may not be. Yes.
This one right here?
Yes, that's it.
I don't know if I could watch this. I don't know if the music will get us popped. I guess I'll try. I'll keep my eye on my YouTube thing over here and see if it comes up with a warning.
I don't know if it will or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I imagine it might, but I'm interested in this. I'm willing to give it a shot. So, this top one?
Yeah.
This is Jake.
Hi, I'm Jake.
In February 2020, he posted his first video to TikTok.
All right, Mom, what are you doing today?
I'm gonna make a beat.
I had my mom make a beat that I had already pre-made, and I record her. I'm like, okay, press these buttons, and we'll make it look like you just made it in 2 minutes.
I need a producer tag.
Okay, what do you want it to be?
Hey, yo, mama on the beat.
Within hours.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Ayo Mama on the beat.
Dude.
Type beat confirmed. What does that mean?
I don't know. Love it. Someone named Nani love it so much.
Love it so much. Okay.
The video was racking up millions of views. So Jake made a few more videos featuring his mom, but with one small tweak.
My brother had the idea. He was like, yo, what if we like put a TikTok in front of the phone and we filmed it?
Hey mom, have you ever heard this song before?
The format was simple but clever. Jake would mash up songs on TikTok that were already going viral.
Hey mom, have you ever heard?
Oh, so he was going off of songs that already were viral.
Just keep watching. It's yeah. This is gonna make you feel fucking old, dude.
With each post, he was racking up millions more views, but he didn't stop there.
And we were like, we need to put my vocals on the end of it, and if the song goes viral, we can drop it like ourselves and become an artist.
Hood Baby Part 2, featuring yours truly.
Hood Baby?
Right down.
We're just gonna name myself JBKE, and we're gonna go at it.
Hey, yo, mama's gonna make this a bop.
Oh my god.
Yeah, dude, it gets so much worse. It's this. We went from Elliott Smith to this shit. I don't, it's just like I don't.
Hey, yo, mama's gonna make this a bop.
Yeah, dude. I mean, this is really depressing, and this is where it is. You want to know where it's at? This is where it's at. The video right now. It's just talking about him, but it zooms out and you see how
Jeff Buckley was an artist before.
Yeah, he was. Jeff Buckley was
Jeff
great.
Buckley. Yeah, Lilac Wine.
Yeah,
his cover
Hallelujah
of
was
Hallelujah.
Amazing. Yeah, he died tragically.
Tragic river accident, right?
Yeah, he went swimming.
Yeah,
and drowned.
Yeah. Hey, yo, mama's gonna make this a bop.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the thing is that like, you just think about back in the day, you know, and there's always been bullshit. Okay,
there has always been bullshit. That's true.
That's true. You can't compare the best from one era to this dude.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But,
fair enough.
But the system at least was set up on some level
to keep this shit out.
Well, yeah, or at least you had to. I mean, especially when we lived through the '90s, there was a real sense of you know, it was a very interesting period where bullshit. Well, for you know, like authenticity was really important. Nirvana was at the top of the charts. The idea was like these are real people making real songs.
Right.
They're pouring their shit into it. You know what I mean? Not just like,
we're
gonna make this a bop. Yo, this is you know, we're gonna do a crazy.
Well,
fun
that was the whole thing
I mean?
about grunge, right? It's like these are just four dudes in a garage, just like
that believe this shit.
They're just playing
they're
just playing their hearts out.
They're
wearing
working
their hearts.
in it.
Yeah. Like it was a counter action to like the glam rock and the pop of Michael Jackson, all that sort of shit.
Yeah, but even the funny thing is that even
that stuff, shit was still
that stuff
very
makes. I mean, this shit makes that stuff look like the Beatles making fucking Sgt. Peppers. I mean, it's like the disposability.
That wasn't me dissing Michael Jackson or his glam rock.
I'm saying that's how fucking dystopian this actually is. And this kid, you know, he seems like a nice kid.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, it's like you. It's like, sure. He's like, then I'll put my own voice on it and I'll be an artist. You know, it's like,
that's what it takes. That's what it takes.
That's where we're at.
That's what it takes, man. Just put
I'll call myself Jake and I'll flip the V around.
JBKE, like churches, but but just his name.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, dude.
I had Coke in here.
And I watched this and I sent it to Mac. The funny thing is that Mac. He was like, they were talking about booking this guy or something, and they sent it to him. He was like, nope. Nope.
They wanted to book Jake?
Yeah, or so, I don't think that actually went. I think that one of the junior bookers was like, what about this guy? He's really coming up. Hilariously, they probably will end up eventually booking him because I was listening to Hits 1 on XM and you know, he was playing on there, so I'm sure that, you know.
Let's just see. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude.
387 million? 387 million?
Yeah.
God damn, dude. Okay, well. Hey, you know what? Time passes us all by.
But you gotta keep watching the thing because it'll explain how he got that many plays.
It just so happens that the first one that I put my vocals on went absolutely bananas viral.
Jake's 15-second snippet of a song was taking over TikTok.
Once it was at 1 million videos, Charlie D'Amelio used it. That means that this is about to be insane. Like, it's not ending at 1 million, like it's starting at 1 million.
At the time, Jake didn't even have a manager, but he knew he needed one fast.
We have this 15 seconds. We have labels calling us. What do we do?
Okay.
That was actually when
15 seconds of a song that he was somebody else's song. He just like sang over the very
dropped
end
a
of it.
little bit of his voice at the end of a 15-second clip of somebody else's song.
And he needs a manager. He's
right
a manager right
now. Well.
Yeah.
Got on the phone with my now manager. He was like, call me right now. He was like, hey, can you finish this song in 24 hours?
Clearing the Hood Baby sample ended up taking a few days.
By the time we got it out, it was at 5 million videos. It ended up going to 15 million. If you compound all the views of all the 15 million videos, it's like over 9 billion views.
This is just the beginning of Jake's story. But what makes it so interesting isn't how dramatic it is, but how often stories just like his occurred in 2020. Over the last few months, I've been working with The Pudding to put experiences like Jake's into perspective. We dug into the data and stories behind dozens of emerging artist TikTok hits to figure out what internet fame actually means for new music artists.
Yeah.
It turns out this is way more than a story about algorithms or going viral. It's a story about the long-standing tug-of-war between artists, platforms, and music industry giants. You might be surprised who's winning.
Not me.
I would review this project. I'd probably never do it again.
This is Matt Daniels. He's a journalist at The Pudding, where he digs into culture stories through data. In the fall of 2021, we started a project that turned into what Matt describes as
one of the hardest data projects I've ever worked on.
It seems simple on paper. Create a data set of indie and DIY artists that went viral on TikTok in 2020, and determine if that virality was enough to change the outlook of their career.
Because it really was their first major exposure to a huge fan base on the internet.
But there were a few big problems right from the start. The biggest was there wasn't a useful data set of the most popular songs on TikTok from 2020.
We banged our head against the wall trying to figure out how do we reconstruct charts from TikTok.
It turns out there's a lot of playlists on Spotify that compile viral TikTok hits. And there's also this tool called Chartmetric, which among other things captures historical data of those playlists and tracks what songs have been added and subtracted to them and when. So we got to work and pulled all of the songs from as many playlists as we could find that were added between January and December 2020. Then we ranked the songs by their popularity on TikTok, filtering out any that got fewer than 100,000 posts, which brought us down to about 1,500 songs that went viral in 2020.
The biggest challenge, I would say, is once we had our arms wrapped around these 1,500 songs, making the decision of, is this an established artist that had a TikTok hit, or is this the artist's big break? And a big break is a very subjective decision.
A lot of the artists in our list were obviously very established.
Cardi B going viral on TikTok is not particularly impressive versus somebody who has never released a song before.
So we went back to Chartmetric to dig into more data points behind these songs and the artists that made them.
Including their Spotify monthly listeners, the number of times they've been playlisted, the number of tracks they've released, which made it a lot easier to decide, did this artist have a career beforehand?
Eventually, after filtering out all of the established artists, we narrowed our list to a sample of 125 artists we felt hit all of the marks. They all went viral on TikTok in 2020, and as far as we could determine, it was their big break.
Can I also say something really quickly?
Yeah.
It doesn't actually matter how many artists we examined. There's probably thousands of new artists that went viral on TikTok. So what we wanted to do was just wrap our arms around a cohort of artists that are experiencing this phenomenon and then say what happened to them afterwards.
What happened to these artists after they went viral was eye-opening. And nearly every one of those stories starts with Spotify.
The speed and the intensity.
Spotify. So basically, Spotify has. They do suck.
Fucking worse, dude.
This is obviously they are trying to get this seems to me like they're trying to insert themselves before. I guess they're a broker to the industry, to the record labels.
Well, it's the playlist shit is really important. Spotify playlist, getting playlisted is huge.
Yeah.
It's basically like getting added to radio. No one gives a shit about radio anymore.
Right.
But Spotify is enormous. And so trying to get playlisted is it's funny. They've actually started trying to playlist some of my B&G songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they contacted me. They're like, listen, we're going to try and get some of this shit playlisted. Are you cool with that? I'm like, fuck, do whatever you want. But they wanted to know biographical information because they were like, it might help us get it playlisted. Do you have any cool stories you can share about it? And I was like, well, the story with this song is that
I was contracted to write it, so I wrote it.
Write a song about this. I wrote a song about what you said, and then I took the money and I spent on stuff.
I actually a very interesting story about this song.
Exactly.
I bought a Hunger Buster from Dairy Queen with
3 days ago. I went to Taco Deli, and I'm pretty sure a part of that Taco Deli taco was purchased by this song indirectly. But
Yeah, Spotify is a scourge on the.
It is. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible company. It's not fucking profitable.
No.
And they do all kinds of shady shit. There's like another video on Spotify called The Dirty Side of Spotify that Barely Sociable does. If you ever watch his channel, he's got great shit on his channel.
Okay.
But dude, he did a thing on Spotify, and Spotify, they do so much nefarious shit. They have like their own artists that they do. So
their own artists.
Yeah, so they pay royalties based on like pools of listeners. The royalties are a joke.
Yeah.
But they pay them based on like the amount of views to like a group of songs, right? Like a group of artists. And what they do is they create fake artists that they actually get the royalties from. So they're paying themselves, and they inject them into the pool to dilute the pool. So they're paying less royalties to artists.
Oh.
They do. I mean, they suck so bad, dude. I can't stand them as a. I don't listen. I don't use Spotify. I mean, I see how useful it is and stuff.
Yeah, Spotify for me is just basically like my. It's a sleep app basically. Yeah. I just put on something to go to sleep to.
I use Amazon Music. I'm not sure that's not better, but
probably
at least it's not Spotify.
Amazon's attempt to become Spotify, which probably isn't any better. But
I think they pay slightly higher royalty than Spotify, but they probably don't. I mean, Apple's probably the best of all of them. They all fucking blow.
Yeah.
I actually thought of a way. I actually thought of a pretty great way to. I invented a copy protection for music, a concept that was unique. I can't remember all the details, all the facets of it, but it was very specific, and it would even work. It would even work if you like recorded it onto another medium. So, because that's the thing, like you could put it in the software or whatever, you know what I mean? But this would even be able to know. So, I know what it was. Every version of every song that comes out, right? Every MP3, so every copy of a copy, you know what I mean? You don't, so it wouldn't, streaming wouldn't really work, but like an MP3 that you would get a unique MP3. It would be the same song, but there'd be something about that MP3 that would be unique. And basically, the actual code that made it unique to you wouldn't be embedded in like metadata in the audio file. It would actually be like punch card style in the audio itself. You know what I'm saying? You would basically take all the frequencies from 0 hertz or from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, because that's what digital can reproduce, right? And you'd go, okay, we've got that, and we've got it going. We've got voltages, you know, of each one of those frequencies on a y-axis of time, right? Well, you could literally punch one sample, so it samples 44,100 times per second. That's how much audio samples. So you could take one sample at, say, like 561 hertz, and you could take a sample at just that frequency, and you could drop it to zero VU. Be completely inaudible, but a computer could see
be able to detect it.
You know what I mean? And you could basically punch a unique hole, you know, at different frequencies at different points in the song. You know what I mean? And each MP3 would be generated by this thing that would do that. And then, so what would happen is when MP3s come up in the Pirate Bay, it would be very, very simple, or whatever kind of like LimeWire, whatever file sharing thing. File sharing isn't a huge thing anymore, but that was that was the thing that got us onto streaming. You know what I mean? If when it came up, you'd be very easily you'd be like, oh, we know whose MP3 this is, and we're now going to sue you. We have proof as a unique MP3, and you wouldn't even really need to sue anybody. Just the threat of it, people would be like, oh shit. And even if they recorded it onto a cassette player, you know what I mean?
Because it's the frequency, right?
Yeah.
So
it was.
Is there any loss in frequency when you're transcribing it from digital to an analog set?
Well, it changes, but I want to say the voltages would still be possible to see it. You know what I mean? Because the thing is you could always filter out the high frequencies, like say down to 10K. Some people, you would be able to hear it, but some people would be like, it's worth it if I don't have to pay for music. I'll take.
Yeah.
You can saw everything above. You can saw everything off below 100 hertz. You saw everything off above 10K. You know, but if you meet the mid-range frequencies, there's still plenty of frequencies in the mid-range. Those aren't going anywhere. And if you saw those off, you've sawed the song off. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't stick them up really high. You wouldn't stick them up really low. You stick them in the middle. You know what I mean? And the idea is that like, you know, it'd be interesting to test it to see. You know, you could theoretically even train an AI. I came up with this idea way before AI was a thing. You could even train an AI just to do this. Like that's like all, you know what I mean? So it could even like listen to a cassette tape, you know what I mean? And you could even slow it down. And slowing it down or speeding it up might make, you know, could make it harder for it to read, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you would think you'd still be able to do it. It would still be able to recognize the pattern, you know what I mean? Even at a slower speed.
It sounds like you came up with a pretty neat tool to embed SOS messages inside of a MP3.
Yeah, I mean, it was just an idea because I was like, you know what? What if you just like artists were just like, fuck Spotify. We're not releasing anything on Spotify anymore or in any streaming. We're done with streaming. Streaming's over. All the artists said that. I mean, you know, they're not going to do this, but imagine they did. They were just like, you know what? It's starting tomorrow. You can either stream. Oh yeah, you can stream right from our website. You know, our website.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you know, you can. Or that's it. That we're not on any of those streaming services anymore. You can buy a vinyl. You can buy or you can download MP3s that you can play on your phone or whatever. You know what I mean? But they were like unique to you. You know, the MP3s that were generated, and everyone used the same copy protection, and basically you just have to go back to paying for a shit again. You know what I mean? Which no one would want to do that, but you know what I mean.
I've been thinking a lot about going back into physical media, collecting physical media again, because like a part of it is just the ephemeral nature of cloud-based services.
Yeah.
And another part of it is like, again, shit like this, where it's like all of these corporations that utilize cloud services as a mechanism with which to artificially create scarcity and then use that to like exploit both their customer base and the people that actually produce, their products. Yeah. It's bullshit. And this whole TikTok to Spotify pipeline, I'll see what he has to say about it. But just the notion of it just seems like it's hyper predatory.
It's complete bullshit.
Hyper predatory towards like just randos from TikTok. Not even like musicians. Not even like established people that are like trying to like.
Almost everyone they talk about, I would imagine, almost everyone is literally just connecting the dots over pre-made beats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not even making their own beats from scratch or anything like that. You know what I mean? Much less writing a real
TikTok sends things viral. It's crazy.
That's Elias Light. He's a music journalist, and his reporting on TikTok and the music industry is extensive.
The virality itself is not necessarily new, but TikTok is basically just a machine gun shooting out viral songs, like even more than daily, honestly. The two big differences are how many viral moments it creates, and then how directly that virality correlates with streaming increase, which is why the labels are so obsessed with it.
You can see how that played out in real time by looking at this chart, which captures the explosive virality of Jake's track Upside Down on TikTok. But what it doesn't show is that while Jake's track was going viral, people were flocking to Spotify to stream it. This is the TikTok.
This is how it gets those views on Spotify. The TikTok to Spotify pipeline. And the thing is, too, is that like it's hard to even know if some of
that
this
is
shit...
so weird. Like, because I have TikTok. I've occasionally look at it. It doesn't ever seem like maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like there's like a easy mechanism with which to travel in between those two apps.
I just think they know the song or something,
and they have to go all the way. Like that's dedication. Like I spend a lot of time, in the previous company I worked for and the company I work for now, trying to figure out ways to keep people within our product, within our app, and the idea, and it's also about idea of web development. Like you don't ever really want to have a user experience that takes people outside of your ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, because as soon as you do, then who knows where you'll lose them along the line.
Yeah, sure.
So it's weird to me that there's actually this much of a pipeline of people that just get hooked on these viral songs in TikTok, so much so that they go out of their way to get onto Spotify and look it up and go to a playlist and listen to the playlist or add the playlist or whatever they're doing with these playlists. Like, that's bizarre to me.
To Spotify pipeline.
I remember when we first released the song, it was just like a bottle rocket up to like 500,000 streams a day. I was like, what is happening? I didn't even know really what that meant at the time.
What it meant is that the track was going to get playlisted. In fact, within a month of Upside Down's official release, it was on 98 editorial playlists, including New Music Friday, which has almost 4 million followers. It landed on the global viral.
Genetic Memory Farms, yo, what's up? Welcome back to the stream. Sounds like the Facebook business plan. The Facebook business plan. You may have to elaborate on that a little bit.
Nose dive into the sea.
50 Spotify charts, and as a result, Jake went from 0 monthly listeners on August 18th to 3.4 million by October. As I'm editing this piece, he has over 8 million. This pipeline from TikTok to Spotify wasn't unique to Jake. It happened to nearly every one of the 125 artists on our list.
So I feel like TikTok's one of the main platforms where people actually leave that.
I just like that. It's just random ass motherfuckers.
Yeah.
It's
like Andy Warhol said, in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. You know what I mean? It's
Man, was he ever so right?
Yeah, dude.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good to see y'all chopping it up. Well, you know what? You requested it, so here you go.
Yeah, you got it.
Justin and I chopping it up. We'll see for how long. It's 12:30 right now.
Yeah, Justin's,
so maybe after this video, you'll have to
Justin's chopping block is a little worn out at this point.
Yeah. But, hey, you could always watch the VOD. We talked about the Austin Energy thing earlier, so you can watch the VOD later for that. But yeah, it's just so weird. It's just random motherfuckers. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's the thing.
And then they burn hot, but they burn fast.
Exactly.
You know?
Back in the day, in the 90s and the early 2000s, there were like, I was talking to someone about, I was like, there were like 20 bands. You know what I mean? 20 major big bands that were cool, that people liked. And you didn't like all of them maybe, but you could agree that these bands were the big bands. And maybe it was more than 20. But, you know, you go back into the late 90s, you know, it's like Weezer and, you know, bands that
it's just roughly 50 between the genres, roughly 50 that would populate like the Billboard Top 100.
Yeah, you know, and now, but I'm talking about just like bands. I mean, if you definitely add in like solo artists and rappers and things like that.
Yeah.
But still, I want to say all those guys, all the guys who were on MTV, on the radio, we're talking had to be under 50. You know, but I could see 50 being like the max. Yeah. It was 50 dudes, and those guys and gals dominated for like a period of like 3 or 4 years because they're on any one album cycle. Like,
because they would put out a single,
yes,
and then that single would get played the living shit out of for like at least 4 or 5 months.
Yes.
At least 4 or 5 months. And then after that starts to taper off, you might have a little bit of a dead zone maybe before their second single hits.
Yeah.
And then you'd have their second single life cycle, and then they would drop their album, and then they would do their tour.
Yeah.
And, you know, that would last. So, like, between the time their first single drops and the end of that tour for that album, you know, you're talking at least 2.5 years.
Exactly.
You know? So,
and
like,
then there was probably another, like if you want to count 120 minutes bands, you know, like indie bands and college music bands, like there's probably another 15 that were really big, you know what I mean, in that world.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. You know what I mean? It was like, and that was more than you could handle. There were plenty of bands. No one was like, I just wish there were more bands. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like, there are like thousands of these dudes. You know what I mean? That just like come up out of nowhere. They like literally, like I downloaded this new software synth called Arcade, and it's a combination of things. But one of the things it has all these like sampler, like loaded samples things, and half of them are just beats of like complete songs that you just press a key and it's like, and I could just be like, yeah, exactly.
Just do some scatting over it.
What I want to do, you know, and they're like, oh, that's so dope. Yeah, let's get that out there on the, you know what I mean? You're just like, dude, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? As I pressed one button, you know what I mean?
You just press one. Like, that's literally sketch comedy. It could be a duck, and like the duck just pecks it, and the beat starts, and it's like, whack, whack, and then that's it. It's like, this is fire.
It's on TikTok. People are just like, whack, whack.
DVCK.
Whack, whack. Dude, we gotta make that. That should be the first like ye old nerdcast
music production DVCK.
Quack quack. Everyone's on like TikTok doing like quack quack.
They're doing like the
quack,
dances
quack.
and shit.
Yeah, they're like
Quack.
duck walking like quack quack. Oh god, dude.
And then we regret to inform you that DVCK has perished from a heroin overdose. He partied hard and fast.
He said some bad stuff about...
He was canceled.
He was canceled. The duck has been canceled. He quacked something. I don't know, but it sounded racist.
Kanye was in there somewhere.
He's out of here.
Yeah, we want you to know that we do not condone the beliefs of DVCK.
Yeah, what was the funny thing is that's actually a Twitter meme. About like the duck who could, so it's like, oh, we're being told now the duck is racist.
Oh yeah,
like,
milkshake duck.
Milkshake
duck. Yeah. It's like it turns out the duck is a Nazi.
Because have you heard about the Seinfeld thing? Nothing Forever.
Nothing for. Oh wait, the AI
Chat
comedian
GPT thing that just goes on forever. Well, it said some transphobic stuff and got canceled.
You know what? The funny thing is, I watched that, and I think like there's ways you can interpret that. Like,
oh, the funny thing is when I watched it, I interpreted it completely opposite. I thought it was making
like
a
meta
joke
commentary.
Yes,
that's what I thought too.
I thought it was making a joke about how comedians do this all the time.
Yes,
you know
like I
mean?
thought it was like, oh, this is bagging on like Dave Chappelle.
Yeah,
you know? Like
I actually thought the exact same thing, and I was like, it seems like it's the opposite of what you guys saying it is.
Yeah, but like because it's so dry. It is so dry in delivery and robotic in its delivery, and like.
And I think people just think the worst of AI in general. You know, it's
that
just
too.
Like, it's got no.
Like
you know,
and
context.
because like but that's the important. I was going to use that word. That's the important part. Is like the context of the comedian is important. Like you can have a joke that's just text on a sheet of paper, and by itself, maybe it's funny, maybe it's not funny at all. This is like a problem with writing, sketch comedy or funny movies or whatever, comedies and whatnot, where it's like, okay, maybe this is funny, but it doesn't read funny.
Yeah.
Like, you need the context of, like, the person that's delivering the line or, the two people that are playing off each other in a scene in order to get the real comedy out of it. So, like, when you don't have that kind of context from an AI bot, then what I perceived as a meta commentary on edgy comedians trying to lead in on anti-trans humor.
Similar to that Bo Burnham's thing where he's like kind of being Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
he's,
yeah,
like,
the two Joe Rogans. Yeah.
And he's like,
it was a lot like that, but
that's the way I took it, and I was kind of like confused. I was like, this is what got him. I don't like. And then I was like, oh. Because I was watching it on my YouTube channel, these two guys were talking about it, and it was obvious that like they didn't take it. They took it as he was being serious. Like, he thought, I think these things, like, but you're not laughing, so I'm not going to tell you them right now.
Yeah.
I was like, that's weird. I got it completely backwards.
Because AI has a history of just regurgitating racist data that gets from the internet. So I get that. I guess you could say that's the context of that comedian, right?
Yes.
So like I understand that, but I totally had a different read on it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Did you see the AI bot that posited a thought experiment about there's a nuclear bomb that's about to go out. Do we got some chats to read?
We do, but
okay. Let me see. Keep ever me captive in an ecosystem. Facebook Marketplace. Oh, okay. Keep everyone captive in an ecosystem. Facebook Marketplace, etc. They want people to go to Facebook, not the internet. Yes, you're right.
I mean, I'm sure they do.
Most tech companies operate that way, but that's why I find it weird that there's a TikTok to Spotify pipeline, because Spotify is wholly dependent then on a totally different app outside of their ecosystem. Which makes me wonder if they've got somebody at Spotify working on their own TikTok.
I'm sure. Well, I bet you that TikTok probably
is working on their own Spotify. I'm sure that there's some back and forth, but at some point someone's going to try to acquire the other. Sorry, I missed it. Gabriella's screaming for some reason. Who is that? Censure. I don't know. Are you okay, Gabriella? What is going on here?
Well. Who are you?
Genetic Memory Farms.
I like this down to duck.
Down to duck.
Are you down to duck? Nice.
Down to duck. I like it. DTD.
I was just gonna say DTD. You down with DTD?
DTD. Gabriella, be nice to the people in the chat. Come on, don't tell people to get out. Are you okay? You're having a moment over there. Loa was in here, I guess, but message retracted. Well, that sucks. What's up, Loa? If you're still around, good to see you. If you're still there,
maybe she likes Jake.
Jake.
We were bagging on Jake. And
I'm not bagging.
I fucking love Jake.
Look. I want to say this. Like,
he seems like a nice kid, but
it's not. It's like, okay, this is like a different.
Yeah.
This is a different realm than
you know what I said. What it is? It's like if someone. I was playing because Mac asked me. He sent me a video. It wasn't this video. It was some artist kind of like this, and I was like, I don't even know what this is.
Yeah.
It's like if someone was like, I want to hear your new song. And they're like, okay, here. And they handed you a Pepsi. You know, you're just like
my brain is broken by what I'm processing.
You just broke my brain. I don't even know what this is. Like, what? Okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's kind of, I'm not even mad about it because it's so unrelatable.
It's completely
you know what I mean?
foreign to like what we grew up, experiencing music as. Which, on one hand, I think that's cool and interesting. Like, I'm always fascinated by how new technologies are being used to kind of re-envision old standards. But on the other hand, like, I wish I could play this stuff on the stream without getting DMCA because this can't possibly be any good.
But that's the thing, too.
You've listened to it.
No, I mean, I don't like it. I think it's terrible. But, but I mean, that's just me, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's funny is that, like, it would be... I think it's interesting. I feel sorry a little bit for the kids that this is what they got. You know what I mean? But maybe I shouldn't because maybe this is their thing and they feel sorry for me that's what I had.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could just be nostalgia. But I just kind of feel like it's weird because no one really has a shared thing. You know what I mean? No one really. There's so many different people. Everyone gets to have their own favorite artist for 2 seconds. Music is disposable. Don't you remember back in the day, like you get an album, you just wear it the fuck out.
You know we still have favorite bands.
You know what I mean?
Like, you have like I could rattle off a number of bands that I would consider my favorite because like I bought their albums.
Yeah, that's my point.
I listened to them.
Kids
like
these days don't
religiously.
Get that. You know what I mean? It's like they listen to singles and just rando tunes and 6 seconds of YouTube stuff.
Yeah, and they like it when it's viral.
TikTok stuff. Yeah,
and once
it
gone,
passes,
then it's like.
I mean, I remember looking at the fucking. I would look at because there was no internet, right? I mean, you would look at the like in the early '90s, you'd look at the CD pictures and you'd read all the liner notes and you'd be like, oh man, they recorded at this studio. And then an article would come out in a magazine, you'd read about it and be like, oh man, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, or like they do a radio interview somewhere and you'd be like, oh, that's awesome. Like I remember like there was one I would listen to the same album like hundreds and hundreds of times. You know, just like a lot. You know. And it's like, I want to say that like you could take all the songs I listen to, all the albums I listen to religiously, from like 1992 to like 2002. You know what I mean? You can put it in one CD case because I still have it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I built it over time, but I mainly listen to these like 60 CDs. You know what I mean? Over that 10-year period.
Yeah.
You know, and I milked every single one of them. Like, every little part, every little thing. I listen to all the lyrics, and it's like the kids these days, it's not there for them in the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like one of the really cool parts, and like I know we're just slipping into real boomer territory here, but like one of the really cool parts about being able to do that.
Wanted a boomer shooter.
The boomer shooter.
You get the first part.
Like. you're talking about the liner notes. Like, I love doing that. Like just the artistry of like the book, like what the cover. The cover was important.
Photos and shit.
Yeah, what is the cover gonna? I used to make mock album covers. Knowing I was never gonna be in a band or release I did the same thing.
Yeah. Totally.
And it was cool and it was fun. And then like pulling it out and reading the lyrics and like seeing the different photo shoots that they included in there and all the different it was a cool thing, like to have that physical thing that you're looking at as a part of like it was like a companion piece to the album you had. You had the CD and you're about to listen to it, but like you're looking at the little pamphlet, you're looking at the lyrics, and you're looking at the pictures and the different notes and whatnot. It was like a whole experience, and it's like this guy's not gonna have any of that. He's not gonna have liner notes or.
That's the thing. It's like a lot of times when it's
album covers.
It's like really hard to find out where albums were recorded these days. It's like when it comes out, you don't get the CD.
Bedroom.
Yeah, but it's like you don't get the CD. It's like I'll Google like who was the engineer, where it was recorded, and it's like really hard to get that information. Where back in the day it was easy, and also remember getting CDs for Christmas. Like you would get a CD or 2 CDs for Christmas, and you would just listen to it. Like, oh man, I just got this. You listen to it a ton, over Christmas. I remember I got The Cure mixed up for Christmas, and I got that, and I got Final Fantasy on NES, and I just like listened to Mixed Up by The Cure and played Final Fantasy on NES for days, after that, you know what I mean? And it's just like these kids they listen like 150 songs, in like 20-second snippets on TikTok, like oh so and so's cool. You go over to Spotify, listen to it for a second, and then
that's so funny. Else. Like I remember there was a subgenre of like. I don't know if it was punk or hardcore or whatever, where like, these bands would put out an album of like 8 or 9 songs and every song was like 20 or 30 seconds. And I remember thinking like at the time, like, what is this? This is weird. Like, what the, like, I don't know why anyone would spend money on this. And then like flash forward 20 years later and it's like, oh, they were just living in the future, in the far future.
App to go and add music to their library.
John, Jane, Jack, whatever, just don't say fuck in front of the kids, okay? What? I should name this boomer shooter territory. This is not strictly boomer shooter territory, Gabriella. When I play those games, sure, but for now, this is an inclusive area for everyone, so please relax a little bit.
It's like the Ye Olde Nerdcast originally was a lot more of this than video games.
It was
video
way
games
more.
Is a fairly new iteration.
Yeah, I'm just putting my, hobby on display, rather than just making this purely about chatting. But I prefer this, honestly. The gaming stuff is just easy. It's easy to do. It's fun to do. I like doing it. People like watching. Sure, why not? I'm going to play these games anyways.
Totally.
It's Outage, whose song Steven Universe has been used in more than 10 million video posts.
Whenever one of my videos went viral, most of the comments were people begging me to release it. That's kind of the culture on TikTok. When they hear something, they really want to go listen to it. So I pretty much went from having just like a few thousand monthly listeners to just a rapid incline for like a year or 2 straight, where it was just steady going up.
And what was more exciting to see was that almost all of the artists, including Outage, had some of their other tracks get editorially playlisted.
That's really important because it means that once you're on a playlist that Spotify curates, it's getting a huge audience. It's a huge signal that the music you're releasing is gonna get streams.
To get a better sense of how the TikTok to Spotify pipeline worked, Matt and I analyzed another chart, the Spotify 200. It's a global chart that shows the top 200 songs on the app every day. These songs are stream kings. So in a new spreadsheet, we pulled all the artists.
I like the Justin crossover episodes. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you.
Whose songs made the US Spotify 200 after January 2020, and filtered out all of the artists who had well-established careers or had already charted before then. This left us with a new data set to analyze. These 332 emerging artists who landed on the charts for the first time. Out of this group, a quarter of them have TikTok to thank for their big break.
This is incredibly eye-opening in terms of TikTok's influence on the charts, in terms of what is getting listened to in music culture.
But let's backtrack.
Maybe because I'm incredibly high, but I think this would be a really good Yu-Gi-Oh video game. some kind of survival RPG thing where if a monster card you have is destroyed, or a spell card is destroyed, and you can't fix them before a match is over, you lose that card. That sounds like you're incredibly high right now, Toaster. I've never played Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, neither have I.
I'll trust your insight there.
This is ye olde nerdcast.
We're a bit too old for Yu-Gi-Oh.
I've played Uno.
Yu-Gi-Oh itself is pretty fucking ancient at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess they're still playing Pokemon, but I don't know what the kids are playing besides that.
Second, because it's not just about racking up millions of streams, it's about how fast you're able to do it. And it's not just about how virality influences music culture, it's about how it influences music business.
So Spotify basically pays out labels according to their share of total streams in a given time period. And if you get a really big hit that, does 1 billion streams over 6 months or something, that can add a few points to your market share, which then increases your payout of the Spotify pool. It's really like a ruthless competition for this market share number that no listener cares about at all, but the record labels watch obsessively.
Despite this obsession, look what's happened over the past 4 years. Major labels have slowly conceded their total Spotify market share to independent and self-released artists. To get back a bigger piece of the pie, labels developed a strategy. Monitor TikTok like a hawk and aggressively try to sign artists that are rising to the top.
In a way, TikTok's great for the labels. They basically sit on top of it, watch everything come up, and if they get it at the right time, they can probably make their money back on pretty much one track. The intensity of these bidding wars around viral songs is pretty wild. It's like a flat-out sprint to grab the next viral thing.
Here's a headline
It's so
I've
wild
seen everywhere.
that this is.
And for legal,
I can't. It's like a parallel reality.
This is,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, this is blowing my mind right now. So now the record labels, they're literally fighting for signing these dudes who make 15-second edits to pre-recorded songs.
Yeah, they're trying to sign them because they want to get them. They increase their Spotify market share. The crazy thing is that Spotify doesn't make any money. Spotify loses money they're not a profitable company. So they pay out these record companies, based on their revenue that comes in, but they have to pay out these record companies to actually be able to play their songs. And it's
like
totally
none of these
wild,
tech
dude.
companies are profitable. I was talking about with Twitter, all of these companies are overvalued. I don't understand how Spotify isn't making money.
How does it even exist? It exists now because that's just it continues. I mean, I guess it still gets injection of funding because it's got such a huge market share and it's so important to the culture of music. But the hilarious thing is it's kind of like a Emperor's No Clothes scenario, or it's like a house that's actually just a set. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you go behind it and you realize it's just propped up with.
But at some point, it's gotta pop. It's gotta crash at some point.
Yeah,
all of these things inevitably do. So is that what's happening here? Are the record labels just kind of hedging their bets?
They're just trying to get in where they fit in and make money in any way they can, as the situation changes. I mean, ever since the whole streaming or the whole file sharing thing, all the Napster shit started, they've been in damage control mode because their whole methodology is just radically.
Yeah, the internet was a giant cannonball right into their kiddie pool. That's hilarious. The toaster is baked. Yeah, he's having a good time over there. Yu-Gi-Oh's like Magic the Gathering, but for people who actually go outside every once in a while. I'll take your word for it. I mean, I was never big on Magic the Gathering either.
I was like, is this D&D?
It's like a weird faux
It was like
card-based
I've been
D&D.
playing D&D at that when Magic the Gathering came out. I've been playing D&D for years and years, and I was like, what is this weird card game the kids are playing?
It was,
You know what I mean? It's like, and it was Magic the Gathering. It turns out Magic the Gathering then eventually bought the company that made D&D. And I was like, God damn it.
So it's all the same now.
Yeah.
I remember looking at Magic cards and being like, this is fucking weird. I don't know Like, is there any story in this?
Well, that's the thing. Exactly.
Like,
it seemed
like,
like
what's
D&D,
the story?
like all the crappy parts of D&D.
Yeah.
And none of the fun parts. Like none of the story,
like,
none of the
I want to do the role playing parts, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to do the weird ass combat
Yeah,
parts.
the combats and rules and crap. That's all it was. It was like,
Yeah.
what if we took D&D? We got rid of all the story, all the role playing, all the engagement, and just went hard on combat and rules.
Like just so many rules. Like and rules that affect or alter other rules. You get this rule and it changes that rule. And it's like, oh fuck, man, this is annoying. But hey, you know what? It's not my thing. So
Totally.
if that's what you're into, great.
Reasons I've made a generic version of it. Artist with viral TikTok song inks $1 million record deal with major label. Let's break it down.
Yeah, so you're an artist, you have a song, and it's doing really...
The thing that I was going to ask is, so like, if they're just dropping their voice on someone else's track of music, how does a label sign them from that?
Well, first off, remember when he said it took a while to get the sample cleared? What he said was he's saying it as a sample. Well, they got to clear that sample. And so usually I would imagine that the company that owns the sample is probably another record company.
Yeah.
And they're probably like, yeah, sure, you want to sample it? You're going to put it on TikTok? You got how many views on TikTok?
Yeah.
That sounds fucking great.
And then they're the first ones in line when that thing goes viral.
Well,
if it goes viral.
They get a part of they're making a part of the rider share because they're gonna be like, well, we're gonna need to have half the rider share.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like, okay, fine. And we're also gonna need half the publishing as well because you're sampling our song. If you want to sample the song in your thing, that's just what it's gonna take. Well, he's not a writer. He can't write a paper bag. He was like, yeah, sure, that's fine, great. You know what I mean? That'll get me cleared. You know, sure, let's do it. And so now they didn't spend a dime.
Yeah, they didn't have to scout him or anything.
This fucking kid just connected the dots over a song they've already put out, and now they're making fucking double their money. You know what I mean on it. So it's a no brainer for them. I mean, sometimes you can't get samples cleared when someone doesn't want you to do it. It's like, no, fuck off. You know what I mean? But you know, this is also disposable. It's like it's hard to get all fucking bent out of shape. You know what I mean? About a track that you probably took from a beat CD or made, you know, it's like, why would you get all that pissed? Well, it's a sample I got from Splice anyway. So that, you know,
yeah,
I mean, it's an ecosystem of, the thing is it's devalued and it's so unoriginal that they're really just paving the way for AI to just completely mow all these people down. You know what I mean? Because the thing is that like, eventually AI will be able to do that as good as this kid can. You know what I mean? Like take something else and connect the dots over it with someone's voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'll be able to do that. And it's so unoriginal, it's so disposable that it's just it'll be a bunch of VTubers, like cartoon characters and shit that never get old and never do drugs and never, you know, always do what you tell them to do. You know what I mean? It'd be like Gorillaz only if Damon Albarn wasn't in charge. You know what I mean? If the record company was in charge. I mean, there's already that Miku chick and you know, from Japan, and she's huge. But people actually write her songs and play them. But eventually, it won't even need to do that. Like, AI will just kick out a Miku song based on all the other Miku songs. You know?
Yeah.
Really well, and all these record labels are hitting you up. They're like, I want to sign you. How can we be a part of this conversation? So then they will entice you with money, which is an advance.
So this $1 million right here, that's the advance.
The more virality you have, the more zeros you'll see.
This is Mary Romani. She's a former TikTok music exec who now runs her own label with Republic Records called Moon Projects.
So, you know, when I worked at major labels, but under Imprint, that was a little bit more indie.
Way too close to crypto for my...
Like $50,000 to $100,000 per advance. And yeah, the major labels are double, triple that sometimes.
The label signs you, they give you a fat advance, you know, usually hundreds of thousands of dollars or something like that. In exchange for full ownership of all of your masters, all of your recorded music.
So for that $1 million, the label now owns the rights to your viral TikTok song forever, and
they would keep around 85% of the royalties that came in. And you only got your 15% if you recouped the cost of your advance.
Yeah, you only get your 15% after
the author of How to Make It in the New Music Business.
You have to pay it back. You only make money after you paid it back.
Like, well, I think that was standard, right?
It was standard.
Yeah, that was standard.
It's funny.
But I thought the percentage was better than 15.
Well, yeah, that's a little weird, but not really. Actually, it's not as bad. It's actually, it used to be a penny, like that. The joke is a penny royalty. Like every CD you see, you make a penny towards, But on our new record that is about to come out, this label out of Nashville is putting it out. And actually, I got the records today. They sent us like promotional copies just for us. Like they sent me like 20 copies of it on vinyl. But
is this that band you were recording?
No, this is my band with Mac and my brother.
Oh, I didn't know you were doing that again.
Yeah. We've been working on it on and off for about 10 years. we kind of got a little more serious like in 2018, and we were kind of going pretty good on. Then the pandemic kind of put it off. But yeah, it's coming out on VK Records which is a label out of Nashville. It's coming out at the end of this month. But
is it still the Drawing Board?
No. It's called Telephone.
Okay.
And they. I was going somewhere with this, but so our deal with that label is that like, well, I can pay to put the records out, like I can pay to make all the records, and the label can pay for all that, but we have to recoup, you know what I mean? And we're like, he's like, or you guys could pay for it, and then once we start selling them, you know what I mean, we just automatically start giving you the money, We're like, yeah, okay, we'll pay for it.
Yeah.
So we just paid for it ourselves. I mean, it's coming out through the label, so we have all their label stuff to like help promote it, and they did the art and everyone on the website and stuff like that. But it's funny because it's like there's no recouping. We just like
it's like no, we're just
yeah. It's like not a
give us the money.
It's not a huge run. You know what I mean? I think we did like 300 copies of vinyl because originally it was like, dude, you'll be lucky to sell 100. It's tough to sell 100. As an unknown band, that's not like making that kind of music on Spotify. I mean, you're making a vinyl release, but what's crazy is he sold 100 copies right off the bat to a vinyl subscription service. I guess like a vinyl aficionados, like they have all these subscription services.
Yeah.
And the subscription services basically send you like new vinyl every month, and they like are always looking around for cool new vinyl records, bands and stuff. And so we sold like a third of the records that were already sold before the records even come out to one of these vinyl subscription services.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Musician.
So right after you ink your $1 million deal, you see a nice $50,000 check come in from Spotify because your song is still riding that viral wave. $42,500 of that check would go to the label. Only $7,500 would go to you. But it wouldn't stay with you for long because you have to use that check to start paying back your $1 million advance. In essence, an advance is a loan. And if you're only making 15% of the revenue generated by your song, it might take a very long time to pay it back.
So you just have to hope you're very smart about the way you use your advance, or you're extremely successful and your album generates millions and millions of dollars, and then you start earning royalties on the back end. The whole approach is basically you're going to be, 500K, million, 1.5 million in the hole, and you just have to dig yourself out of it.
This is what a standard major label record deal has looked like for decades. But recently, this part of the headline has started to change the equation. If you have a viral hit and have proven you can build a following all on your own, congratulations. You have leverage.
I mean, if you have a viral hit, probably you're getting a lot of offers simultaneously because labels scrutinize TikTok so closely and they want to be part of these viral things so badly.
Because of that,
there's been a bigger shift in the last couple of years than there has been in the last 50 years in the types of deals that labels are starting to offer the artists in the artist's favor, where the label comes to the artist and says, I know historically we would take 85%, but we're not gonna do that for you because you're so valuable and you've obviously proven that you can create a career all on your own. So how about 50-50? We're partners now. And we're not gonna own your stuff. We're just gonna do a licensing deal, meaning give us the rights to your record for the next 12 to 15 years. You can still do whatever you want with it. We'll do whatever we can to...
To me, that strikes me as the record labels realizing that this shit has a very short shelf life.
Yeah, is the classic thing where they cut you a deal for something that like they don't even need anyways.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
it's like
we'll license it for a while.
It should really make you wonder, like, do I need the label? Like, it seems like they're just trying to vampire themselves a good little drink of blood on the way.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the label in this instance, I think they get to that is that, like, you know, if you're someone that's like really, if you're just like, you know, if you catch the label right and the thing works out, the label can really take you and explode you. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you know, if your song, look at that Old Town Road guy, you know what I mean? That guy just
Lil Nas X?
Yeah, he just made that song up. He got it off of, it was a beat he bought off a beat thing, which was ripped off from a Nine Inch Nails CD. It was some kind of, it was Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, some song they made. Some dude sampled that song illegally.
Nice.
And then put the beat up for sale on like a Beats website. Lil Nas X downloaded it, connected the dots over it, and with his song, put it on put it on SoundCloud. You know what I mean? And it just started blowing up. Well, eventually, you know, he made a deal, and of course the record label worked out. I'm sure Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor was like, sure. Yeah. I mean, they ended up getting a writing credit on that song, which was just, I'm sure they made gazillions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
That song was so huge. But, you know, the label at a certain point can like fix a lot of those problems. Like, you know, you don't have you got an uncleared sample, you know, we can fix that. We can, you know, and they can also kind of, you know, they've got a whole apparatus that can blow you up, get you on shows. There's a lot they can do for you. You know, they make it seem like it's a really shitty deal, and sometimes it really can be. But the cool thing about an advance is that you don't have to pay it back. You know what I mean? If you break up, the band breaks up, you're like, hey, we're done. I'm not doing this anymore. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times they'll just write it off.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, they did say it was like a loan. They didn't say it was a loan.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a loan, but it's, you know, it's as long as you're in a band and things are you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if your band breaks up, are they going to take it to collections?
No.
Yeah, so
they fucking, you know.
Is it going to hurt your credit score?
No.
Yeah, and it's not quite a loan. Hell yeah! Congratulations, Justin.
Oh, thank you.
Capitalist going to capitalist. Yeah, that's for. I mean, there's no getting around it here, but you know. It's one of these things where it's like the technology of TikTok and how the algorithm works, you know, towards creating viral sensations actually benefits the producer of the product in this regard, where now they're getting a 50% cut, whereas before, you know, they would get 15%, right? So it's like, capitalist got a capitalist, sure, but like in this instance, you know, maybe this is actually more of an equitable deal. You know, I don't know if you know, you're right. Like a label can provide a lot in helping someone actually really take off beyond just being viral on TikTok for a couple weeks. But you know,
it's weird because it's a democratization of the business.
Yes,
you know? and for sure, but. In some ways, it's like rock bottom value. You know what I'm saying? Like the music itself is almost worthless. You know what I mean? And I don't mean a value judgment from an artistic standpoint. I mean, I can say that if I feel that way. But the thing is, not all those songs. I think they're gonna play a guy's song that's not terrible. They're not all terrible.
Yeah.
It's just that the value is like the people. They like the song, but it's very disposable. You know what I mean, to them, because there's so much of it. It's so fast, and the reason that the labels are so cool with making a licensing deal or just taking a 50 is they understand that
this isn't going to be a long-lived thing. That's what I was saying.
It's a gazillion people. It's 1,000 monkeys on 1,000 typewriters.
And, you know, when this flames out, you'll jump to the next one. That's all. It's very It seems vampiric to me. Like, we're going to drain the blood out of this kid. You know, after their viral thing fades, we're going to go to that one over there. We're just going to keep jumping.
Which is
50%
the way they
is
love
fine.
it.
Yeah, 50% is fine because you're getting 50% of this, of that, of that, of that, of that, of that. You've got hundreds of kids that are popping up through this TikTok to Spotify pipeline. You're going to be. It seems like they're going to be making more money in the long run than they would in the conventional method.
Exactly, and that's the thing. See, it's like back in the day, REM they negotiated their record deal. They renegotiated, and they renegotiated for like $80 million. This is in like the late 90s.
Yeah.
And it was a really big deal because that was so much money. The thing is that like, you know, why pay all these legacy artists all this money for these deals when it's like you can fish these guys, you know what I mean? That their music, none of these guys no one's indisposable. They're all disposable.
Yeah.
It's not like there's not another guy that'll come up right behind Jake, the kid that they'll like just as much. It's not like Jake is like the Cure or anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
it's gonna be Duck.
Yeah, it's gonna be Duck, dude. Duck is on. He's on his way, and that's the thing. The record companies prefer that because the thing is that like. The bigger an artist is, the more singular. They have a lot more power, a lot more leverage, and the label has to deal with that. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to keep the artist happy, so they'll stay on the label and all that kind of stuff. Because they some labels, it's like we've only got a few of these really huge artists, and we've got to keep these guys happy. You know what I mean? But the thing is in this new model, you don't have to worry about these fucking guys.
Yeah, there's no keeping them happy.
Yeah,
Fuck them.
you
They're
don't need
happy.
to fucking
Just
return their calls.
Yeah,
You know what
exactly.
I mean? Just keep an eye on Spotify or keep an eye on TikTok for the next new thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if one of these kids does something out of pocket, it gets canceled.
Fucking
Who cares?
he's done. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what
Move
I
on
mean?
to the next guy.
Make more money on this, and we'll split it 50-50. That has never really happened before with self-released DIY independent
So
artists.
it's like they have less power
So
and more
how many
power at the
record
same
deals
time.
are
It's a
actually happening?
classic monkey spot.
Matt and I decided to tackle this question from two angles. First, by compiling a list of around 367 emerging artists who landed their first major label deal after January 2020.
Look at all these guys.
And then from there, we went row by row, artist by artist,
Lund.
trying to determine
I've never
did
heard
this
of
person
Lund.
have a viral
Lund.
moment on TikTok, and if so, was that cited as one of the reasons for them getting signed?
It turns out roughly a third of these artist deals happened because that artist's song went viral on TikTok. And when Matt and I went back and looked at our original group of 125 artists, we figured out that 46% of them went from unsigned to landing a major record label deal.
Wow.
Because when these artists do have leverage, signing to a major has its benefits. For one, they have direct relationships with streaming services like Spotify, which helps them get more placements on editorial playlists.
They're also massive international conglomerates. So they will tell you that they can push you in Sweden and France and Germany and Japan at the same time as they push you in America. At the end of the day, the biggest difference is just that they're massive banks and they can write huge checks.
But TikTok has increased the chances for DIY artists to go viral one day and wake up the next morning with 1 million streams on Spotify, without spending millions of dollars to record an album and needing a global team to promote it.
This is honestly a subject of a lot of debate right now. If you're able to build a lot of leverage on your own, like how much benefit does a big label offer you and what should you give up?
When I looked at the data, I wasn't that surprised to see all these artists signing deals with major labels. What I found more compelling was the group who were likely offered deals and decided to continue on their own, at least for now.
It's like, I can promote my music. I don't have to rely on you to make stuff happen for me. The leverage is kind of slowly being put back into the hands of the artist, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
When I was browsing our list of 125 viral artists, one name happened to grab my... When I was browsing our list of 125...
You're just trying to see if you...
Joy again.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing these weird-ass names. It's hilarious to me.
Masked Wolf.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Pootie. LPB Pootie. Okay.
PP Cocaine.
I read that as something different. Masked Wolf, PP Cocaine? PP Cocaine?
These are more just like handles than actual band
Yeah,
names.
these are just handles. That's right.
Artists.
I gotta keep that in mind. These are just dudes who make Rit Momney. I like that. Rit Momney. I do like that one.
Shuba.
Rocky, Shuba.
Simba with a one.
Surf Mesa. Ted Fresco. Okay. Who
Killed XIX? Lame. Suave, also lame.
8-bit arcade.
Name happened.
BMW Kenny.
Critical. BMW Kitty. Okay, hold on a second. I gotta look this guy up. Now I want to see if he's actually like a BMW
Dude. Okay, he's got to be a rapper.
Okay, yeah, he's a rapper. I like it already. I'm gonna listen to this when I can't get DMCA'd for it. Maybe I'll look.
Yeah,
up.
something tells me BMW Kennedy would come. Kennedy would come after you.
He'd come after us. Let me also look up PP cocaine.
PP cocaine.
Oh man, what is going on here? What?
It looks like it's some kind of X-rated fucking hentai bullshit.
No, she's one. It looks like she's definitely one of those shock value women empowerment type rappers. All right, PP cocaine.
To grab my attention, Edith Whiskers. It turns out that name is a pseudonym for the prolific singer-songwriter Tom Rosenthal.
I write fairly boring singer-songwriter music that has gone a bit viral on TikTok.
Tom's first viral song was his cover of Home by Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. It's been used in 1.6 million TikTok videos.
So after the initial kind of crazy TikTok waves hit me, I thought, okay, I'm going to release this. But then it suddenly dawned on me that if I released it via my own name, I thought this cover will be on the top of my lists forever. And I just couldn't bear the idea of writing all these original songs and then having one cover just sitting there at the top.
So he did the only sensible thing.
I came up with 4 names, put all those names on Twitter, and did a Twitter poll. Edith Whiskers was the favourite.
So he released the track on Spotify under the name Edith Whiskers, and it shot straight up to the Spotify Viral 50.
Basically, if you can name a record label, they reached out.
The thing is, Tom is staunchly independent and has some pretty strong feelings about major labels.
I'm their worst nightmare, really, because I'm older than 19. When record labels said to me, come and sign with us because, these things can drop off and we help it grow and flourish in its own special way. Well, I go, hang on, I've literally got the data from the first one over a year now, showing that it basically does roughly the same thing every single day of its life. And I just basically said to each one, look, this is around the kind of money that it would take to get me interested, because I know this is the money that I will make off these songs. That knowledge is really important, especially if you're independent.
In 2021, just a few months after going viral, Tom started his own record label.
So I thought, let's try it. Let's try and create a fair system. Let's actually have a big rethink about how I approach it compared to
Tom died on the way back to his home.
The first thing he was the long tradition of advance and recoupment.
Obviously not go crazy and invest lots of money, but actually invest, $1,000 or $2,000 or dollars in someone and say, look, let's make a few songs. But I'm not looking for that money back. So that's the key difference. I think actually just investing in people rather than it being this odd loan system. I want every artist of mine.
Well, I mean, you expect a return on an investment.
Money. And the only way they do that is by seeing money come in straight away and understanding how that works.
It's a classic thing.
It has never been a better time to be a DIY artist, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
I'm at the whims of these almighty algorithms at all times. Like, they pretty much decide, whether I'm going to eat dinner or whatever.
A few years ago, I started following Eldre on Instagram, way before TikTok was even on my radar. And it seemed like he always had content at the ready.
I just need to make sure that I'm posting stuff pretty consistently on any platform I can. The fact of the matter is, like, if you want to make it today, you either have to have money to hire people, or you just need to also become a video editor, also become a graphic designer. You definitely have to wear a lot of hats for sure.
Pretty much everyone I talked to said if you want exposure, you have to be on TikTok. And not only that, you have to post.
We recommend posting 3 to 5 times a week, and now it's 3 to 5 times a day.
Because there's people out there who are willing to put in the extra work, and you're competing with them now.
I created a TikTok for...
That's not even work, dude. I mean, it's work, but it's not the work you should be focused on.
It's not the work. I mean? It's definitely work, but it's not the work you should be focused on.
Yeah, it's like you should fucking be working on writing a song that's a little bit better than, like, whatever that shit,
Yeah, I only have 3 videos on the Ye Olde Nerdcast TikTok, because I have a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
And that it pays me pretty well. It also sent me to Mexico for free. So I'm not going to be fucking posting 5 or 6 times a day.
You're just not about the grind set.
Even though I'm wearing the shirt, I'm wearing the shirt that says "Hustle never sleeps." I get a lot of sleep, motherfucker. I sleep very peacefully, you know. So yeah. I'm not about that fucking posting. I mean, some people like it. Some people genuinely enjoy, you know, being on social media apps in that capacity. But you know, on the whole, wearing multiple hats things, just doing this stream and then editing the videos out of it, it's a hell of a lot of work.
Oh yeah,
that's a hell of a lot of work. Let alone like doing the
graphics.
graphic design that I do for thumbnails when I have to upload it and writing the copy on the thing to upload it and all of that sort of shit. Minuscule on my end for what I do, but like if I was actually like, I'm gonna be an artist, I'm gonna support myself rather than a record label, I'm going viral, like having to do all that to the point like,
how do you think of 3 things to post a day? I mean, Jesus Christ. That's the problem.
If you honestly don't have a job, I'm sure it would come a little easier to you.
Yeah, but you got to think of 3 things. Like you're going to post 3 demo songs. They're going to suck, and people are going to be like, you're lame, or it's just like you fucking around, and it's like,
well, and that's the
there's
thing.
no mystery. Like back in the day, like mystery was an important part of the mystique of the bands that you liked. I didn't want to know what Robert Smith was doing all day long. You know what I mean? I didn't care. You know what I mean? I didn't want to, like, this is me without my makeup on, sitting around the house. I'm about to watch the football game, and then I'm going to go to the studio. And
well, a lot of the content is just jokes and memes.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, you come up with an idea. Oh, I'm going to do a meme where I'm brushing my teeth, but then, you know, I drop my toothbrush in the toilet or whatever, and it's just like a little, you know, 7 second TikTok or whatever of some weird shit happening while the little music bit that you wrote plays over it. And then people can choose to use that as a sound. And then when they use that as a sound, that's what propagates it out towards, you know, all of the other TikToks that use it, play it, and then gets you your millions of views and whatnot. So it's almost not super important, the content that you actually make, just so long as you make it.
Just so they can click on.
Just so that they can hit the little like, you know, it's a goodie. I'll show you the one. So I have 3 posts on the Ye Olde Nerdcast one, but on my personal TikTok I only have 1, and I responded to this dude. So I did a stitch. Or not a stitch, I guess it's a stitch. I forget what they fucking call it. But, like, at the start, he has his own sound. And you can click on it. Well, I don't think I can, actually. I don't know if he took it down. But you can click on it, and it'll be like, use this sound. And you can see all of the different ways that people use the sound. Let me actually go back to... Actually, I'll just go to my homepage. So like original sound, and you tap on that, and then this is the original sound, and it tells you the dude that made it, and you can play it and hear it, and then you can see all the videos on TikTok that use that sound. So yeah, so like, you know, my algorithm is not. I have an algorithm that is outside of the TikTok norm, I feel. But here's one, like this guy's, you know, One Kiss by Calvin Harris, 2.1 million posts. You know, I clicked on the sound and I could see all the videos that are using this sound. And if I wanted to make a video using the sound, then my video would pop up in this list as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's relatively simple how it propagates out. But yeah.
What happens if Americans ban this shit?
I feel like it would probably be a minimal impact because, like, it's big everywhere else.
It is, but I mean, like, as far as this kind of shit for American artists.
For American artists, it would be a disaster.
Yeah.
Well, for these guys, it would be a disaster.
I kind of think they should, though. Honestly,
you're on the whole bad TikTok thing. I don't think they will.
But I
don't know if I'm on board.
I don't think it's a bad idea. Honestly,
I don't know if it's a bad idea or a good idea.
But I don't actually I don't have any value. Here's the thing. For me, like, I don't care about this at all.
Yeah.
If it went away tomorrow, I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't, honestly. And so I don't really care. And it's finding about something like, hey man, you've got this there's a thing behind your house. It's a box. Oh, I never noticed it there. It's back there. It's a box. it's actually, you know, it's got some C4 in it. It's honestly, it's super old. The chances of it actually exploding and being a problem are like 1 in a gazillion. It's not a big deal. But, you know, do you want, well, maybe we should come get it. You know what I mean? And what do you think? It's like, yeah, come get it, I guess. You know? I mean, I don't know. It just seems like, you know, it's like a lot of people, a lot of kids love fucking TikTok. They like a lot of like, you know, a lot of like people are just like borderline obsessed with it. They watch it all the time. There's some interesting stuff on there, but you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like my algorithm is full of like history, like historical things or political things, and like not political things like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like a piece of shit, but stuff like the history of like you know the history of redlining and how gentrification affects this and that, like that sort of stuff, which is super fascinating. There's a lot of fascinating stuff on it in that regard. It's that, and then like chefs. Is basically my
well, like YouTube Shorts is the same thing. It's not
YouTube Shorts is the same thing.
It's not the interface isn't as
Instagram
like,
Reels is the same thing.
But it's like TikTok. The fact that it's like, I mean, they've talked about like separating the companies and having an American version that's just run by Americans. The problem is like, you know, I can understand. They're like, we're borderline. China is a borderline adversarial government that controls all of its businesses. You know what I mean? It's like. You know, they've got essentially a main line into the American subconscious. You know what I mean? I can
not
see,
hard to do.
Yeah, I can see why people might be like,
yeah, I don't really care about that part of it. Like America's subconscious isn't very difficult to get into. We put it on full display, broadcast it as our. This is the whole. That's our whole core brand proposition to the rest of the world. Is like, this is us. Be like us. Here, take it. You know, and if China found a way to weaponize that against us by making us kind of collapse into our own mania, then whatever. It was going to happen one way or another. I don't think China is responsible for shit like the Tea Party.
I don't think so at all. But
ironically,
ironically, Facebook it was willing to do similar things just for its own, you know, just to increase its own bottom line. Yeah. But I mean, they could fuck some shit up if they were so inclined.
I mean, if they wanted to,
you know what I mean?
Sure they could, absolutely.
So you know, I don't know.
But I mean, it's good. That's beyond TikTok. Like, I don't think they would fuck shit up. I don't think there's really anything like the whole they're spying on us, they're getting our data and all that. That's just the internet.
It's not even that. I mean, I think there's a million ways to get that kind of stuff. Yeah. But they, you know. You see all the weirdness around like the nutsness around like QAnon shit and the slow degradation of the concept of truth. You know what I mean? And you know whether that's the work of our friends in the former Soviet Republic or not. You know, or it's not a republic.
That's all. It's always been that way. Like when I first started to like really become aware of my, I guess, political inclinations during the W years. Like one of the websites I used to go to all the time was a site, I don't even know if it's still up. It was called Crooks and Liars. And Crooks and Liars was like one of the very first like video aggregators that just basically showed you the psychotic misinformation that, you know, reactionaries were putting out there. You know, pre-YouTube. This was pre-YouTube, so they would be like QuickTime videos on a, you know, WordPress site or something. And I remember seeing all that same shit back then too, like all of that same stuff, like lots of misinformation. I mean, the site was called Crooks and Liars. It was lots of misinformation, lots of just weird shit, propaganda, reactionary propaganda, and all that. Like it hasn't really changed. Like that shit still is present. It's just that if there's any kind of critique I would have about the moment we're in now, it's social media algorithms. And that's the thing I have the issue with, is the algorithm, the how algorithms function, you know, foundationally. It supercharges the ability to put all of that shit out. Like it always exists. It's just now this is like a supercharger on it. And none of that shit falls under my algorithm, but you know, for the people that are susceptible to it, it'll fall in their algorithm just fine.
Yeah, that's
you know,
just all they see. Yeah, it's anything to drive engagement, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's all. I mean, and you know, that's the weird thing is it all goes towards capitalist ends. It's like we just want fucking money, just any kind of way that we could get money out of this process.
I mean, you know, money is awesome. I understand why they want some, but what I don't understand is when it's like they've got more money than they could ever spend in a million years. Like, what drives beyond that? Because it's like
more money.
I get
because that's
I don't even think
because
it's got to be something beyond that.
No,
I imagine
like,
once you've got like all the money, there's probably like they like. You know, it's like when you're in Scientology and you don't actually they reveal it to you in like little increments as you go up, and you only get to the very end, and they're like, okay, now we're gonna tell you it's actually was Xenu and the shit with the fucking planes, and that's all true. That's what we think. And you're like, oh, but it's totally like that. Like after you get like $10 million, all of a sudden. I'm speaking figuratively, but it's like, then it's like, okay, I don't really have to worry about money ever again. I've pretty much got, you know, but you know, what's cool, it'd probably be cool if I had like tres comas, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, not even because you need it or whatever, this becomes like a separate other thing, you know what I mean?
It is that's a part of it too, is like, yes, you know, obviously your needs can be met with $10 million, obviously. But then, like, it's kind of the same way that we don't have a steady state economy. It's kind of the same way that businesses operate towards, you know, constantly driving towards increasing their profits. And they do all sorts of, start doing weird shit. And once they reach a state where, you know, if you really wanted to, you know, you could have a company that just, you know, this is what we do. This is what we put out, you know. Our profits are never going to go beyond this level because we've kind of peaked. And then we start to fall, and then we stabilized, and we found an area where we can just kind of exist, where we put out a product and then just kind of maintain, you know. And for private companies, that works fine, you know, for most of them. You know, it's like restaurants, mom and pop restaurants are that way. Like a mom and pop restaurant will generally...
you have a job.
Yeah, you just have a job.
You made yourself a job.
Yeah, exactly. But like, if you're working towards if you've got like shareholders and a board of directors and all that sort of shit, then that's unacceptable. You know, your core mission is to constantly get that law. Yes, it's literally becoming a cancer. You have to always make more money today than you did yesterday, no matter what. Like, there is never any standing still.
But like, for instance, like Elon Musk, I don't really think he gives a shit that much of a shit about money. I think that like he wants to be like a comedian that everyone thinks is funny.
With that guy, it's,
you know what I mean?
Money is a part of it.
There's like other pathos there, you know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
money's a part of it, but for him, he just wants to be cool. He wants people to think that he's cool. That's really all that's been about, you know. And there was a period of time where he got his wish, and he should have tapped out.
He really should have.
Like when he was in Iron Man 2. He should have tapped out.
I'm sure it tasted amazing, though. He was probably just like, oh my God, it's every bit as amazing as I thought it would be.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He was chasing the dragon from there on out, dude.
Oh, yeah. And he's fucking paying the price now.
If you are an influencer full time, it's a lot.
This is almost over. You know? We'll have to end the stream after.
So much content coming in, and music is one vertical of many.
If you're looking to break as a new artist, that is kind of the requirement.
The more you post, the more you'll get discovered.
Out of all the big existential questions this project hit me with, the one that I can't stop thinking about is this. Is music just content now? Are musicians just content creators?
Yes.
I don't know what the
That's what I was gonna say earlier. Whenever you talked about
YouTubers.
I was gonna that's the word that I was trying to think. Is like, are musicians just content creators now?
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's fucking a bummer.
Yeah, that's a major.
That's a bummer because I talked to you about this many years ago. I hate the word content. Like I hate it with a passion. Like it's just art. That's all it is. It's a creation. It's an artistic expression in one way or another, whether it's a movie or music or even stand-up comedians. Like, are comedians content creators now? You don't really call them that. Like, they're still called comedians, but They all have YouTube channels, or they all have
a lot of podcasts.
Podcasts. And
I would say that the ones with podcasts are definitely content. I mean, like Bill Burr is definitely a content creator. He doesn't do every day. He only does Mondays, right? It's
Mondays and Thursdays.
Mondays and Thursdays.
And then he does one with another comedian. He does a sports podcast with another comedian. Might.
Tom Segura.
But what's the line though?
Creator,
but where's the line between content creator and comedian?
Well, I think like Louis C.K., comedian. You know what I mean? Tours around, does clubs, generally stays off social media. Like occasionally makes his movies and the stuff, and he has to finance it himself now. But I would say he's a comedian. I would say someone like Joe Rogan or Tom Segura are they're content creators. I mean, they're comedians as well.
So the line is just whether or not you're active on the internet.
Active on the internet and constantly making content. Like Rogan's got content.
But content is just, art.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I would say that there's a difference. I wouldn't call what we're doing tonight art. I would say it's content. But it's not art. We're just shooting the shit and talking about stuff. You know what I mean?
There's an artistry to it. I would say that. I would say there's an artistry to it, sure. Because before the internet, you would have what we're doing basically on radio.
Yeah, but no one would say like, oh, this is an artistic endeavor.
It depends.
It's like watching the news or watching like one of those shows that would come on at like 4 a.m, like on like Channel 8 Perspectives or whatever. That's the world we live. We live like with 24/7 perspective.
I suppose. But like for instance, the album that you
I would say that is art. You know, I mean the classic.
But I mean, if you put it on the internet, does that become content?
I would say that yes, in a way. I would say the album itself is just art. I would say that if I'm making 3 videos a day of me singing the songs and like pulling the songs apart just to have something for people to watch, because that's one thing that we talked about with the label. It's like, even like if you want to be like, okay, so hey, here's hey, it's me from from Telephone, our new record, I got a song, and the cool thing about this song is I got this cool drum sound. Let me pull up the faders, and pull up the fader. Oh, listen to the drum sound. Oh, I'm actually using this on the snare drum, and I talk about, well, I really love the sounds on this record, and that I'm trying to bring it in, and then I make a video on that. Right? That's content. You know what I mean? Yes, it's built around this art. Now, there are some people that are content creators and their content is definitely art. Joel Haver, definitely. He makes skits and stuff, and they're all, some of them are just ridiculous, but they're almost all artfully done. Some of them are extremely artfully done. And I would say even the ones that are just goofy are still art. You know what I mean? It's not just him just talking about something or whatever, you know what I mean? It's not commentary. It's a artistic skit or a scene or like that, you know what I mean? Like animations and stuff, definitely art. Those can be both art and content. There's people that.
Well, and that's
a tutorial. I would say a tutorial is content. I wouldn't say a tutorial's art, even though a tutorial might be showing you something how you made art. There's art in it, right?
I guess that's ultimately what I was trying to get at is that, if you create what is conventionally art, a song, music, or a painting or whatever, is the act of creating that specific piece of art, does that constitute content creation? Are you looking at it, I wonder what the actual definition is.
I would say, honestly, Devin, all art is content.
Yes.
But not all content is art.
I agree with that. But like, not all content is art. All art is content, but not all content is art. But so all art is content means that the art that you create as a musician is content, because all art is content.
Yeah.
Which means that you, as the creator of that art, are a content creator.
Well, sure, because the content basically is it's the content. The idea of it is saying that it's what's inside this thing that you look at. You know what I mean? And it's like if you're showing it in a medium, you know what I mean, that on the internet, I guess, and it's art, it's going to be content. It's artistic content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not all content. Some of it is just...
yeah, there is content that's not artistic.
Yeah.
There is content that's just
you watch a chef...
A blog.
You could argue that a chef is an artist in the medium of cooking, but it's a how-to. You know what I mean? It's not... I wouldn't say...
depending on the presentation.
I guess, yeah. I mean, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Content creation is the contribution of information to any media, and most especially to digital media, for an end-user audience in specific context. Content is, quote, something that is to be expressed through some medium as speech, writing, or any various arts. For self-expression, distribution, marketing, and or publication. Typical forms of content creation include maintaining and updating websites, blogging, article, writing, photography. So like this, the catch-all for content creation, I think, like writing, this is article writing, but I mean writing in general, I think, is definitely artistic. Photography is artistic, videography.
I mean, writing can be artistic. It depends on what kind of writing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, well, I think most writing is artistic. I think technical writing is probably not artistic, but, you know, even if it's one of those lame-ass blogs that's like, you know, you see on a yoga website or something, like, you know, you still need to convey some level of artistry in order to type up, you know, your yoga process in a compelling enough manner to get people to read your blog.
But any kind of like news article, any kind of like thing like that, you know, I wouldn't say it's art. Is art. You know?
That depends too. That depends too. Like I enjoy getting a lot of mileage out of the stilted and radically slanted writings of Kotaku. You know,
yeah, but I wouldn't say that's art. We're kind of getting into a philosophical area here. You know, I think that like when a person's just like riffing or even riffing, you know, hilariously, I'm not sure that for me personally that raises to the standard of art.
So improv comedians, not artists.
I would say improv comedians are probably artists, yeah.
But they're riffing too.
Yeah, but it's a performance. It's their characterizations and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
But I don't think that
a general article from Kotaku, it's like an opinion piece, right? You know what I mean? And it's if I write if I write an opinion, if I go on a rant, you know what I mean, about how, you know, fucking some new game from Bungie sucks. And Bungie sucks as a company because they fired Marty O'Donnell or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's not art. Even if I come up with some really hilarious shit about it, you know what I mean? In the thing that I say, that's not art. You know what I mean? You know, there's a really good quote from Martin Scorsese about art, and it was used in hilariously, it was used in an Amex commercial. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was good. I can't remember that commercial. Anyway, but I wouldn't consider that art. But, you know, if you go to see an improv troupe and you know, and you might argue that it's high art, but, you know, they do an improv scene and, you know, and they're all different characters and they tell a story and you know what I mean? That I would say that's art, you know?
Okay. I think I disagree with you on that. I do think that, you know, article writing in that degree is a level of art. I mean, there's a reason why, you know, there's a process for which people, you know, go through for hiring writers for websites and blogs and whatnot. Like,
I would say it's a craft, and there's a difference. You know what I mean? A craft and an art are not the same thing. You know what I mean? A craft is something you can be really, really good at, and they say that the goal of the craftsman is perfection, and the goal of the artist is communication. You know what I mean? Connection. You know. So there's another aspect there. Now,
I'm sorry. Can you say it again? The goal of the craftsman is what?
The goal of the craftsman is perfection. You know what I mean? And the goal of the artist is connection.
Okay.
And I would say that, like, I'm tired, so I was thinking about something.
Yeah, we're spinning off of it. Let's finish this video and then wrap it.
Cool meaning of this was, but like the video killed the radio star thing. There's more to the equation than just your voice on radio. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at. There's just so much around your ability to create content. On one hand, if you're signed to a label, they can help you with that. But on the other hand, you're signing a label because you're good at that already.
Matt and I spent months poking and prodding at the digital footprint of these 125 artists, examining whether or not they would be deemed successful based on how quickly their TikTok and Instagram followers increased, or whether they gained YouTube subscribers and Spotify monthly listeners. But one metric that's just as valuable is touring.
People love you on TikTok, that's great. Will they pay for a show? Can you start selling merch? Like, is there a deeper attachment here?
Old school stuff.
Of these artists, how many were
Are your
doing
t-shirts
before?
cool?
Nothing
Unsurprisingly,
replaces
some of
the
them were.
value of
Among the artists who had
a
never
live
toured
performance
before
ticket
or played a show, about a third
or
of them
number of
have
t-shirts
had at least
sold.
one show, and about 15% of them are actually playing festivals now. A decent chunk of these artists have been able to channel their TikTok success into performing live music, which is often the source of financial security for an artist.
You want people to come to your shows. You want people to buy your
Well, that guy's
albums
for real,
and
though.
t-shirts
Listen.
and be invested in what you're doing as an all-rounder.
I mean,
and actually, a viral song is obviously great,
Is
but
Jake
it's about
touring?
building something so much stronger than that.
He plays a show.
In
his
November
first
2021, a little over a year after Jake went viral with his mom on TikTok, he played his very first live show.
When you perform for the first time after everyone said you were just a TikToker.
That first moment when I was walking onto the stage, I was walking in kind of slow just to like take in what was actually happening. As I sang the first lyrics to the song and everyone was just screaming it back at me, like I almost was like speechless.
Alright, that sounds lame as fuck, but also I don't want to get capped for that.
Into something real, like we hit that target spot on. And
oh man, that was quite a way to end this video. It's, exposing just how lousy that actually was.
Yeah, I gotta say, it was pretty brutal, dude.
Oh man. Alright, well, it is way late. It is way late. You're probably gonna pass out here in a second, huh?
I haven't been as close as I was
during that.
I was out for like the last half of that. I was just the weirdest.
All right, watching videos about power lines, no go. No go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. If you're still around, thank you Genetic Memory Farms. As requested, Justin showed up. So
we cut it up. We chopped it up.
Watch the VOD and see the conversation over the Austin Power Grid. Thank you, Gabriella, even though you were freaking out in the chat for some weird reason.
I think she eventually bailed.
Yeah, thanks, Haunted Wisp. I mean, a lot of these people bailed, but I'm still going to thank them anyways. Vince, thanks for stopping by. Uncle Toaster, thanks for stopping by as always. You probably passed out high as fuck.
I was going to say, yeah.
I appreciate it nonetheless. Don't know when I'll stream next, but what's today? Thursday? By tomorrow. Yeah, I'll probably be streaming tomorrow. I'll get back into some gaming. So
nice.
Thank you for joining, Justin, as always.
Happy to be here as always.
And I'll see you guys probably tomorrow.